Hey, this is Jesse Lonergan, comic book artist, comic book writer, creator of Drome and Hedra, and you're listening to 11 O'Clock Comics.
Hello, folks. Welcome to 11 O'Clock Comics, episode 1040. I am one of your hosts. I am David A. Price, and with me, as always, is...
Tyler Rake.
Nice. Nice. And there's a reason for that, because while Vince is away, cavorting with the family, we decided to pull, okay. Mr. Ande Parks is a writer, artist, wearer of hats, drinker of bourbon, and hands down one of my favorite people in comics. Inked the majority of the Green Arrow run that was started by Kevin Smith, continued by Brad Meltzer, concluded by Judd Winnick. He's one of the creators of Irredeemable Ant-Man with Robert Kirkman and Phil Hester. And he's worked on Grendel, Captain America, Daredevil, Nightwing, Superman, Batman Beyond, Wonder Woman, Green Hornet, Lone Ranger, Astro City, The Exterminators, the characters from the View Askew universe, tons more. There's the Union Station graphic novel with art by the late, great, and sorely missed Eduardo Barreto. And a personal aside for me, I purchased Capote in Kansas, and I believe my first Wizard World Chicago that I was invited to. That weekend cemented one of my favorite memories ever, because I got, not only did Andy scribble in my copy, but Chris Somney sketched in it after hours, and that may have been the year that I also played, in air quotes, golf with Andy, Chris Niesman, and Brian Salazar. Currently and through the summer, Andy has two titles from Ignition Press: Tyler Rake, an extraction story drawn by, I'm sorry if I'm going to butcher Ronan's name, Ronan Cliquet, and colored by Rhonda Pattison, is a prequel series to the Netflix to Netflix's Extraction, which was based on the limited series See You Dad, which was of course written by Andy along with Joe and Anthony Russo, and illustrated by Fernando Leon Gonzalez, and Bad Thoughts with art and colors by Dave Wachter and Brad Simpson, if my notes are correct. The last time Andy pulled up a bar stool and chat with us was back in 2013 on episode 277, talking about his career at the time and collecting original art. So allow me, finally, after years, to welcome back Mr. Ande Parks.
Thank you, guys. So good to be here.
Man, 13 years, that's a disgrace. That's on us. That's our bad. That's terrible. My God. What are we doing?
Right?
I would have guessed like 5 or 6 years if you had asked me.
No.
I swear I'm available. I'm not that hard to get.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Oh, well.
Andy slid into my DMs. He's like, hey, remember me? Oh. So,
best hat game in comics, for sure.
Absolutely. 100%. Without a doubt. For the drink roll call tonight, because Andy is here, it is a special occasion. I did take down the Infinity bottle off the shelf again, added a splash of Blanton. So again, shout out to Kevin from last week. So I'm enjoying a mix of bourbons tonight. What about you, Jason?
I am also imbibing in honor of our guest, although, as you know, I don't drink the hard stuff. So
Yes.
I'm having a wonderful Brunello from Montalcino. It's called Tassi. It's 2020 varietal. It's great. It's one of the better Italian wines I've had in a while. So salute.
Nice. And you got anything in your glass, Andy?
Yeah, I'm taking it easy lately, so I have a Coke Zero with a splash of Bullet in there.
Not bad. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I think I've got some bullet in here as well. Anyway, so, we can get right into it if you want. If there's anything in particular you want to start off with, but I do have I'm your two books currently from Ignition. I'm I'm kind of impressed with the quality of the work. I haven't. I know. The Beauty is currently being published or republished by them. I haven't. I don't have a ton from their catalog, but I'm liking what I'm seeing. How is it? How is it working with the new publisher?
These are guys I've known forever. Jamie Rich is my editor. He edited the first graphic novel I ever wrote, Union Station, some 20 odd years ago. Jeremy Hahn is a creative director there. He's a dear friend of mine. Eric Gitter is kind of I don't know what they call him, the CEO. He's the big man behind the scenes. And he's been attached to my projects in Hollywood since they all began. And then Philip Sablick has been a friend and acquaintance for, I never really worked directly for him, but I love Philip too. So it's a great team. And they solved a big problem for me. I had ended up in a place in comics where I did these Oni books, these graphic novels, which I was very proud of, but there was very little money. Um, I'll just say it. They gave me 4 grand each to write my first two graphic novels.
Jesus.
And when I say to write them, what I actually mean is I gave all that money to the artists
Mm.
because that was the whole budget. And it was still insane to ask people to draw more than 100 pages for 4 grand, but that's the best we could do. Um, you get after you do those kind of books for a while, you start to feel like either A, I can't find somebody to do it for this amount of money, or B, if I can, I feel like I'm exploiting them to get these damn books done. So I couldn't find a place to make books in comics where I retained ownership, but everybody was getting paid enough to keep their lights on. And I didn't have the kind of, Robert Kirkman money that I could just fund them out of my own bank account. So I was kind of lost in comics. I wrote a novel. I was chasing Hollywood money after Extraction became a hit. Ignition kind of solved that problem because their model is similar, creator owned stuff. I get to do what I want, but everybody involved is getting a real page rate and living wage. So it's a very comfortable place for me to make books. I'm thankful for it.
Well, that's great.
So is it like a so Andy? It sounds to me low. So is it would it be fair to say it's like the Skybound model, which is right? Because obviously everyone knows the image model, which is kind of like you pay a small fee and then you kind of are responsible for everything, but you also then have all the economic upside or downside. But
Right.
Skybound obviously is Robert's thing, and putting aside like the license stuff, all I know a lot of the other stuff like the stuff that Dan Warren Johnson has done, that you get a page rate, and then in return, though, Skybound gets some percentage of ownership of your property. So is this not that then? Because it sounds like you do own this. Like how does how does that work?
In it as well. I still control the property, but I
Hmm.
split the rights on the creator side with the artist, and then the Hollywood slash publishing side, Ignition, has a chunk of it too.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So it's like Skybound or Dark Horse, right? Like Dark Horse has that model, right? So
Yes. Now the
um,
difference with Dark Horse was they're taking the majority stake.
got it. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You put your finger on it though. I mean, that was one model. Image was another model. They don't take anything, but you're funding it all on the back end. So you're
Yeah,
asking an artist, hey, there's gonna be some money in 9 months if you
Yeah.
can float till then. So
yeah.
yeah.
Sometimes even longer, right? Because sometimes you got to wait for the trades to really even
Yeah, right.
monetize it, right?
Right.
Yeah. Nice. Well, the people involved certainly like are. I mean, I don't know Eric Gitter, but I've known Philip for. I mean, since his Top Cow days, and obviously he ran Boom for at least a decade, probably more than that, right? And Jamie's been around as an editor for all sorts of places. I often think of him as sort of the person that brought us Joel Jones as well, because
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and then Dap, you mentioned that the Beauty's been republished there, but that's because I'm pretty sure Jeremy Hahn is actually the creative director at Ignition, right? So
Yeah.
he's actually got like a role there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a great team. I
Ian
mean,
and
it's
I
all
came
people that
into
have been around and
Ignition.
do awesome stuff. Yeah.
We kind of rolled into Ignition with the properties that were pre-existing in
Hmm.
Extraction and the Beauty. And we knew they would want to continue those franchises. Other than that, they've invited us to pitch, our dream projects, and that's been
Yeah,
really, really liberating.
I love that. I'm
that's
sure. I
awesome.
mean, I don't want to say he's been on. I know that there have been some people who weren't exactly thrilled with like the page rates from like Boom. So I'm glad that
Yeah,
that the artists can, like you said, have a living wage and make sure they can provide while the work
yeah.
is being done.
There are other things. I didn't. Do you guys know about Comics Pro, the
Oh yeah,
retailer conference
sure.
that happened? I
Hmm.
went out there for the first time. Ignition brought me out to announce Bad Thoughts, and watching Ignition's presentation in that room of retailers really drove home for me how smart Ignition is being about their business model. They're listening to retailers about what they want, incorporating things. Like for example, they're on a 6 week publishing schedule, so the issues are spaced 6 weeks apart, which gives retailers a chance to gauge actual sales before they have to file their orders, which is something that never even occurred to me. But a retailer, doesn't have to say, well, probably nobody's going to want the second issue. I'll cut that. They can actually look at how the first issue sold through before they have to fill their orders. Um, Things like that. Really consistent branding on the back cover tells you exactly what the book is. The cover stock is lovely. Just a lot of little things that I think retailers appreciate, which just speaks to how much experience Philip has in the business. Jamie has, all those guys.
For sure. So let's talk about Bad Thoughts. I mean, we were, we've had the pleasure of reading the zero issue and the first issue.
Oh,
Um,
good.
yeah,
Yeah, Dave sent it to us.
yeah, I was going to say Dave Wachter. For those listening, we sometimes take for granted people know what we're talking about. Dave Wachter is the artist with Andy on this book, and of course, we've mentioned Dave a lot lately because we just hung out with him at Heroes. But and his lovely wife Jenny. But yeah, I mean that's Dave is much like you, Andy. We've known Dave for 20 plus years now, and
Yep.
I remember 20 years ago thinking, oh, he's a really talented artist. And as we said to him directly, like he's continued to grow, to a point where I just think he's such a masterful storyteller, and he can do so many different genres. And he did a project with Tony Fleece, which was like very different in style and approach to what you guys are doing together. And I thought he killed that. And then obviously he's done things like the Godzilla books, which are just giant kaiju. And I just feel like there's not a visual approach or task that he's not capable of just crushing now. And I have to say, certainly you got a good one with a co-creator on this, because he, needless to say, really brings your story to life in a just a beautiful way. I mean, because doing an action story, is always tricky, and I feel like he really pulled it off. So how did you guys hook up? I mean, I assume you've known him for a long time, but I mean, how did you guys end up like deciding to work together? Because I know he's fairly busy. Like, did this timing just all perfectly align, or was this sort of in the weeds where he was ready to work with this whenever you got the green light? I'm always curious how that lines up, because it seems like we think it's very carefully calculated, and then the story ends up being more serendipitous than that.
Right. Um, I knew Dave in passing, had met him at a few cons, had mutual friends,
Hmm.
and then he was just on my list of some of the best guys out there who I might want to work with. And the timing wasn't perfect. Um, I floated his name to Ignition. Jamie didn't know about him as much as Philip did. Philip had worked with him quite a bit. And Philip right away was like, oh, that'd be killer. Let's try that. And Dave wasn't available. He was finishing up his previous series. Um, but again, sorry, I sound like such a company man here. People are going to start calling me John Byrne. Um, I, um, they part of the Ignition model. Another thing that I like is that they wanted to get off this treadmill of holy crap, this book is going out Thursday. It's got we got to go go go. Um, I've had leeway of enough time, I think, on every project to finish or almost finish all 5 scripts before the artist started. So we knew we were going to have to wait for Dave for several months, but that was okay. I went ahead and wrote the whole darn thing, and it was waiting for him when he was there. Nobody at the publisher was like screaming, "We got to get this out. We got to recoup our money right away." It was all fine, which really makes the product better because we're able to look like I'm writing in number 5. If I find something that might resonate, if we do it a little differently in number 2, I can still go back and tweak it, and it all gets done really the way it should be. So it all worked out. We had to wait for Dave a little bit, but I was thrilled to do it. I was so happy that he said yes.
Looking at
It
these
looks like it
first
was
two
worth the wait
issues.
for sure.
Yeah, 100%. You guys do. I mean, just judging on these 2 issues, you guys seem to make a great team. It's the I love the idea of the concept of bad thoughts. The I it's I what I really appreciate about your work is the moral code your heroes your characters tend to live by. There's a lot of loyalty in your work amongst the characters. It I get to the end of the first issue and I have to wonder that how well no because I'm not going to go into any spoilers or anything like that. It's just but it the way I'm it's one of those books that that I as soon as I finish it doesn't happen with every series I read, but as soon as I finish an issue, I want to find out what happens next. And so you have me champing at the bit for the second issue. I'm dying to find out where we go from here. And I mean yes, obviously it looks great. I mean it's Dave, so I'm not, consider that being redundant, but it's just the whole aspect of it behind the security team and how it's just Jack Coates is just you. I get where he's coming from, and it's interesting seeing how from that 0 issue and into the first issue how his story is taking shape and the people who rely on him and who he has to depend on. It's going. It looks like it's going to be a fun ride, and I'm really stoked to see where you take these characters.
Wait long. The second issue is bonkers. Like things go off the rails in a big way. So I was just talking. I did my first what's it called, a whatnot, where you do like a live.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
sure.
Yeah,
yep.
yeah,
Look at you all modern and stuff doing
yeah.
whatnot.
Well, I didn't host it. The Ignition sales director guy did, but he said we described the concept and he said, "Cool, that's a cool setup." And then from then on, it's Easy Street, and I was like, "Oh yeah, they have picnics. It's all delightful." That's, that's not the case. The second issue, everything just goes totally upside down. So yeah, we wanted to let you know that it's going to be that way at the end of issue 1, and issue 2 really cuts loose.
Okay.
And it's thank you, Dave, for the kind words. 'Cause I think all my stuff is about, in some way or other, people who have lost touch with part of their own humanity and the connection that it takes to bring it back. So it's all about human connections and how we rely on them to confront the ugliness of the world around us. And Jack, that this character lets me say a lot of that about that because Jack's condition is kind of similar to what we're all bombarded with. We're all bombarded in this modern age with a lot of ugliness, and it's tough to get through it alone. You need somebody with you.
And I know
Yeah, and
we
for the listeners who aren't like maybe aware yet of the comic, I mean, essentially it is a story about a highly trained paramilitary operative who also happens to be on some level psychic or empathic. I don't know. You tell me, Andy, if he's both. But
yeah.
he can read thoughts, and to your point, as we've seen, in other stories with psychics, like that can be as much, if not more, of a burden than a gift because you're hearing people and it's noisy and you have to it's hard to turn off. And then in his case, he seemingly hears people's worst or darkest thoughts or what they've and he and needless to say, that's very difficult for someone to handle, especially when you're capable of pretty much killing anybody with your fork, which this guy seems like he's capable of doing because he's like a badass. So and I really appreciated in the Zero issue how you kind of set up that this is hereditary, and that but not like in any you didn't beat us over the head with it, like it's the zero issue again for those that haven't had a chance to read it is sort of you see basically our protagonist is a youngster getting pulled out of school unexpectedly by his dad to hang out, but he quickly sees that his dad is soaked in blood and comes to the realization that something really is amiss, and his dad's got these headaches, and it's clear that something went wrong that led to, I think, his dad doing horrible things to his mom, and and there's a lot of unanswered questions, and then you sort of but it sets up that Jack is obviously someone that came from trauma, immense trauma, but also has these powers, and what a burden that must be to deal with on a daily basis. Like I don't know how I would function. So
Well, I'm pleased that all that made sense in what you read, because you always wonder, am I giving enough information? We get the big ABC explanation of what his curse is in the second issue.
yeah, okay.
But it sounds like you got the gist, which is, yeah, he's an empath, but he only gets people's most violent, awful stuff. And having lived with that since that incident with his father, since puberty, basically, he's had to ponder if I have this ability and that's what I get, what does that say about me? Like, why do I only get the bad stuff? He actually says that in the second issue. So there's
and reading this, it's weird, like what happens, like in terms of memory locks. Like after reading this, I like flashed back to, I mean, God, probably 15, 20, maybe longer, but like a long time ago, in that phase of your life when all your friends are getting married and that kind of that kind of phase where you're like going to weddings like every couple weeks. I vividly remembered after reading this where we were at a table with a bunch of my college buddies talking about this idea of how even perfectly normal, well-adjusted people probably have some really awful, intrusive thoughts at times that if they ever verbalized, or if their loved ones or people around them knew, like could just be in their mind, would be just absolutely like mortified, right? And how like that's just the way the mind works, that it's not even in that case, like it's not even like that doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't, like your mind is often a way of working through concepts, including extreme ones that you certainly wouldn't act on or aren't based in the reality of your world, but you just like you have these moments of thoughts, right? And it can be anything. It can be self-harm, it can be anger, it can be jealousy, whatever, but that all of us have in our lives these thoughts that we really would never want to define us, or to have the people around us really ever know, because it would seem so far out of context. And I guess, and I don't know if this is part of it, but like, have you thought through, like, when Jack's hearing, like, is he hearing things that like could there be false positives, right? Like where like he's hearing people that in a moment of like they're having terrible thoughts, but like they would never actually act on them, right? Because they're kind of just like mentally venting in their head, or is he only hearing things that are like for sure true and like things they've actually done or intend to do?
they probably resonate on different levels for him. Those two,
Okay.
yeah. And he's probably learned to sift through. If you think I thought of it at times, because I struggle with this condition, as having tinnitus. Nurses always say tinnitus, and I hate that. I don't know. To me, it's tinnitus, the ringing in your ear.
Sure.
Same.
You get used to a certain level of it. And that's kind of what being out in the world in general is like for Jack. There's always a little bit of noise. And then particular actions. And it doesn't have to be that, horrible. I think the example I've given in a lot of interviews is he's in the produce department at the grocery store, and a guy called his wife a whore there the day before. Jack might get a little like, God damn it, that wasn't pleasant, all the way up to, where we see him work a murder scene, which is really horrific.
Right.
And you touched on something I want to talk about. I think when I realized um, this project meant a lot to me was I'd been kicking it around for years, and I was
Hmm.
sitting out on around a fire with my wife on our back porch, and it hit me. I told her something, and she gave me a look she often gives me, like, "What the hell? Why'd you think that?" And it hit me that it was kind of about my wife and I, because I, whether it's just the way I'm made or by nature of the job, I have a lot of dark shit rolling around in my head. And my lovely wife, who Jack's wife is based upon, looks at me like, why would you go? I don't understand. Why? Where does that come from? And I can't tell her. I can just tell her that having her in my life makes that much easier to deal with. And, so I wanted to talk about that dynamic a little bit in this.
Yeah, no, that's super interesting. I often wonder, like, because in this conversation I was referring back to, like, we also were kind of coming at it from like a masculine feminine perspective, and postulating that like our wives, or I guess in some cases then like girlfriends, depending on how long ago it was, we're probably not also having those same kinds of intrusive thoughts. Like, it was more of like a masculine type of a thing. But I don't
Right.
know that to be true. This was that way we were thinking about it in our late 20s, right? We were certainly less wizened and hadn't had the pleasure of growing old with my wife and spending decades with her. But it's like I wonder too, does everyone have these like intrusive dark thoughts, or is it just because my buddies and I seem to, that like we assume everyone does, and I don't know
Right.
the answer to that.
Right. Right.
So for my own mental well-being, I tell myself everyone has these thoughts.
Right.
So I don't feel
Yeah.
different, but
Yeah.
you know yeah. So
I
you
know.
said this is a 5 issue series, so have like but you had this idea in your head for a long time. Like, when you got the go ahead to do it, like, did you pitch it as a 5 issue, or is it, in the modern comics world where if the 5 issue run is a hit, you can and will go back to it? Like, I'm curious, or like, is 5 issues like getting the whole story that's been in your head for a long time, like out there for the world?
It had different formats. It was actually a nearly completed screenplay at one point.
Okay.
And Ignition kind of posed it as like, look, 5 issue series is kind of our go-to. It's going to be our standard format. And because I'm just a horrific rule follower, I was like, well, that's what I'll do. I'm not a kind of guy who pushes, well, how about 7? How about 8? So I just thought, you know what? I can make it work in 5. It'll be good. So the hope is, and it's been their number one was their highest selling book to date.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's great.
Awesome. Good
That
for you, Tim.
that meant a lot to me, just because I think, fingers crossed, it means that maybe we'll get to do more. And I
Mhm.
really want to. I want to do more series with this guy. So
Okay, cool. So there could be more depending on
that's
the
fingers
economics.
crossed. Yeah, I
All
would
right,
love to.
awesome.
Okay.
All right, great.
And it's
But that's they kind of chose. I mean, I'm sure if I said, look, I need 6 for this story, they'd be fine with it.
Sure.
But you know what? I'd like to write kick-ass 5 issues and go do the next thing. And I got no problem with that.
the
Yeah.
and we I mean and well I mean sort of kind of cheating. We're getting 6 issues with this because you smartly called the
We got the
zero
zero.
issue the cold
Yep.
open, which and I love a cold open because as you do the write up at the end of the issue, explaining for anybody who may not be familiar with the term, basically when you look at any of the James Bond movies, anytime 007 does something before the credits roll, that's the cold open, and
Right.
and the zero issue is it is that because it's not like it's while you do a great setup of explaining who Jack is and what he can do, it's not necessarily continued into the first issue. It is a self-contained story. This is who these people are, and buckle up because once we hit the gas with the first issue, we're not going to let up. So I mean, the zero issue is great. The first issue is super solid. I'm really happy to hear that it did so well. I know I didn't get to stop by Dave's table at the end of the con, but I know that he did have both issues on his table. I'm pretty sure they were selling over the weekend. Um,
Yeah.
and he just he I we didn't get because we haven't seen Dave in ages, we didn't really get to talk about work too much. But he seemed really happy about this project. I know he was having fun with Tony on Uncanny Valley, but honestly, when I think of Dave, I think of work like Bad Thoughts, and because Dave just has that. Even when, I mean, I know one of his favorite characters of all time is Daredevil, and he does that gritty, real world kind of feel to his work, and it stands
Humans
out
look like
well.
humans too. Like he
Yes.
does a great job of like everyone looks different. They they're not like heavily photo refed, but like he's really it's, like I said, he's great at drawing everything, but I'm with you. Like I think this book in lesser hands, because it is so character driven, might not have made as much of an impact. And again, in no way do I mean that as be dismissive of the power of the story, Andy. Again, but
No,
as
I
you
get
know,
it.
I mean,
I get it.
you've been, because again, you're an artist too. I mean, you understand, like, the magic of comics is this merger of these, of writing and art, and obviously, art carries a lot of the weight in terms of how a book is remembered. Like I've read, we've read, God, tens of thousands of comics in our lives now, and there are plenty of books where I thought, oh, what a great idea or story, but the art just didn't click, and vice versa, right? It works vice versa too. You see comics that just look great, but the story's a little disjointed. So I feel like this was a great pairing, and I was actually surprised to hear, like, in your answer earlier, that you guys didn't know each other that well. I kind of assumed you were just like longtime buddies. So it's kind of neat to see two people we consider friends and longtime talents like get together this way. I'm wondering though. So as someone again who has spent as much of your career being an artist as you have been a writer, how do you approach that? Like when you're working with someone these days, like do you do how much how much say do you have either at the outset or as it goes along about like how you want it to look and feel? Like did you kind of have like a character Bible where you did you give Dave like fairly clear instructions about what the characters looked like and their backgrounds, or did you let him kind of like come up with the visual dynamics of the characters?
I preface every project with kind of a note to the artist saying, I'm going to give you visual cues where I have them, just so you know that I'm never going to ask you for something that I can't picture in my head.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't be doing this with you if I didn't trust you to fly off and make it your own. And I trust that I'm always going to get back better than what I gave you. So please go with your instincts. Um, and as for style, I told Jamie even before we were talking specifics, I was like, I think this needs to have kind of a grounded, realistic style, or because I want people connected to the real world of it before the Stephen King twist hits them. I want her to be bought in like it's a real thing, so that when Jack's thing comes along, they're not too thrown. Like they go, oh, okay, this is part of the reality of this whole thing. I get it. Um, anyway, so we got Dave. I did send him character notes on every character, and every now and then I'll say, hey, this character might look like this actor a little bit. And I know he's not going to go trace reference on
Oh,
any
sure,
actor.
yeah.
It just gives him kind of a vibe. Um, and then as far as the scripting, I know that Dave would probably prefer a looser script, but I just feel like I have to do what makes me comfortable and ask him to do the same. So I
Sure.
give him a very complete script. It's got panel breakdowns, descriptions, total dialogue, everything. And he goes away and he warned me. He said, hey, he said, I'm often going to add panels because I think the storytelling needs it. I was like, great, let me have it. So the last stage of writing one of these is always to go back and look at the finished art that Dave has provided, and then look at my script and say, okay, this works in a different way now because of what Dave did. That means I don't need this line of dialogue. It means I can move this narration here or there. So it's a totally collaborative process, and that's always what I want. I never want to overwhelm the artist and make them feel tight and like they can't do what comes naturally to them.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I don't know who you had in mind when you gave him sort of like this is what I was picturing, but I got to tell you that, and maybe full disclosure, because I had just finished watching the wonderful first season of Man on Fire. But I was picturing Yahya Abdul Mateen as I was reading this. I was like, oh, I'm like,
Oh, cool.
if they ever turn this into a show, I'm like, let's get Yahya to do it.
So. I like that. That name did not come up, but yeah, I like it.
Okay.
Yeah, I could see that, or Anthony Mackie. Sure. Yeah. No, that's a good pick.
Yeah, Mackie just seems a little slighter.
That's fair.
Like jacked up. Like he's pretty big. So I was picturing more. But yeah, for sure.
I think the guy I mentioned, if I remember, for Jack, may have been oh God, forgive me, Denzel's son.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, for sure. That's a good one. Yeah, okay. I could see that too. Yeah, I could see that too.
Is that now? So what is the working relationship like with Ronan on the Tyler Rake book?
Very similar. It's Ronan's. Ronan is Brazilian. Our story opened in Sao Paulo as a little nod to him because that's where he lives. So I thought, well, let's give him something local at the beginning. But I have not noticed, and I've worked with a lot of South American artists. Eduardo Barreto spoke English perfectly. That was not an issue. The artist on my Lone Ranger run, not so much. I knew I was dealing with the translation situation. So you have to be very clear in your language. Ronan, I just wrote it like I would for anybody, including the note saying, hey, run with your instincts wherever you want. And I asked some really tricky things out of him. In the second issue, there's I wanted to do something in an action comic with every issue that I hadn't seen before, which is a little tricky to keep coming up with things. But my favorite example in the second issue, forgive me guys for breaking down a visual thing in words on a podcast.
All good.
Tyler passed out unconscious at the head of a stairwell that is dark.
Yes.
His new partner is then charging down the stairwell to fight guys. All this is lit by Tyler's dropped flashlight, which is bouncing down the stairs with each consecutive panel and casting its light in a different direction, which means that all we really see clearly in that panel is wherever the flashlight is aimed. And so knowing that language was maybe going to be a barrier, I said, Ronan, here's what I have in mind. It's tricky. Do you understand what I'm going for? And he nailed it. It's so cool.
I love it. I love those.
Like I said, I've never seen anything quite like it in a comic. And he just killed it. I was so thrilled.
That's awesome. I have to. Oh, go ahead, Depp. Sorry.
No, it's especially with the fact that they're widescreen panels. There's 5 panels on the page, but it is very cinematic, which is going to probably lead to my next question. But I go ahead, Jason.
No, I was going to say, unlike Dave, which we know Dave's career and have known him for 20 years, I was the only thing I knew about Ronan, and I don't know if it's Cliquet or because it's Brazil. I don't know. It's Portuguese. I'm not sure how you say his last name.
Honest, I'm not positive either.
I thought it was French, so that's on me.
Oh no, he's Brazilian. But the only reason I knew him is because he is one of the artists repped by Chiaroscuro, which is a rep I've bought lots of art from over the years. Right. And so I remember seeing, because I'm as I know you are, Andy, like because I'm an OA obsessed freak, like I recognize people's names because I'm scouring these OA rep sites often enough where like I'm always like seeing the names listed in the artist drop down, and so I was like, oh, I know him from Chiaroscuro, but I didn't. I'm pretty sure this is the first comic I had ever read of his, and I'm not familiar. I don't know what other comics in the US he's done, but yeah, like he definitely is up for it. And I too, like you said, Dap, like I love the horizontal, the sort of the landscape sort of layout. Like I'm a big fan of that. I wish more comics did that. I guess because they worry about like storing it on a shelf or something. But I love that idea because it just feels different. So
yes, it does.
That time flows. Okay, I'm going to get off on a tangent here. Mm-hmm. The biggest tool comics creators have, I think, is controlling the reader's experience in a way that's totally unique to our medium. Yes. We can stop or speed you up in how we lay out the story on a page. So we can make you linger. We can make you move through the page faster by how the panels are laid out. And that kind of horizontal stacking leads to a certain very static time experience for the reader, which is different from a bunch of thin vertical panels pushed next to each other. I think those tend to read in kind of a quick, like boom, boom, boom. And the horizontal kind of makes you move through the page at a more measured pace.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a cool way to lay things out, but I think you have to use it effectively. Like, we wanted you to experience that page in a very certain rhythm, and so those panels I thought worked for that.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. It's and it's one of those reasons why this is a great example of why if if you, if somebody who's whether they're new to comics or they just want to know more about the medium, then obviously I'm going to point them to Scott's Understanding Comics, and he breaks things down like this, and it's the same thing when if somebody just reads a comic, whether it's from Priest or from Bendis, and there might be some stat panels because the person speaking isn't moving much or changing much, but there's still a lot of dialogue going on. It's obviously designed so that those are beats in time that you're supposed to kind of linger on here, or there isn't much action going on, and that's why. I mean, yeah, sure, there could be artists who are just lazy and it's like, to hell with it, I'm just going to show faces. But there's a method to the madness. There's a reason why panels are laid out a certain way, why the borders might be thinner or the gutters might be larger. There are moments where you're supposed to linger on things, and you're not just supposed to read a comic in 5 minutes as if you're trying to break a record. There's
Exactly.
there
Yeah.
are people doing things behind the scenes that are trying to guide you, because whether you're reading a novel or watching a movie, like novels are obviously different. A movie, you're at the mercy of the director, and whereas comics and novels, you can novels you can use your imagination, but the comics are going to have everything on the page that you need, but you are kind of directed as to how you're supposed to be consuming that page.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's a unique tool in our toolbox. And by the way, I don't want to sound too highfalutin about our Tyler Rake series. It's a kick-ass action comic. So there's also a full page spread where I said, "Hey Ronan, can you kind of do an homage to this awesome Jack Kirby drawing of Captain America leaping
Yes.
over a bunch of Nazis?" And he
Yep.
nailed that too. So
For sure. Yeah, for
I
sure.
was.
And it's got the Bond vibe too, because he's got the the obligatory page of him with the lovely ladies in bed, right? Like it's like that's to
yes,
establish that my man is a man of many talents, not just not just a gun.
yeah.
You know.
And then
Um,
doing some blow and vomiting. So yeah, it's all
yeah,
it's a
yeah.
different vibe.
So when you're doing a comic that's like a prequel of something that you're like of your own thing, like again, it kind of gets back to what I was saying about like how much you talk about the visual communication because, and I'm not mad at this, but I did, it's hard for me to read this now having seen the films and not think that the character was going to look a little bit more like Hemsworth. Now, I don't know if it was a conscious decision on Ronan's part to make him look, like a different quote unquote actor, or if like because he's Brazilian, he didn't even put like give it a thought, or you said, hey, don't make him look like don't worry about making him look like Hemsworth. You know what I mean? Like I'm always curious because like I was like, oh, I'm like it's the Hemsworth character, but just like in films, like we had like 4 different Jason Bournes, like he just doesn't look like Hemsworth, and that's cool. But I was wondering if it was conscious or just random that happened that way.
It's a it's an interesting situation. I am listed as a co-creator, but it's really the Russo's property. They had the initial idea, and then they brought me on to develop it with them.
Okay.
So he is drawn like that because that's how he was established in the graphic novel Extraction universe, which we executed long before there was a Chris Hemsworth that
Right.
happened.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And see that. Yeah. Uh-huh.
And so we need to stay in our comic book universe
Yep.
and
Makes
not
sense. Yeah.
tread too much into the movie universe.
Sure.
So they would prefer us not to do a likeness, and that's part of why um, I made it a prequel. I was pretty sure there was going to be a third movie, and I knew they were working on a TV show, which has already been shot now, and they're doing post production. Um, but I wasn't exactly sure how the story, what the Russos had in mind for his story down the line. So I thought, well, the safest way for me to not tread on what they may be doing is to step back a couple years and kind of lead him up to the point where he is an extraction expert. Um, And we do drop a couple new hints into his origin, which work for both universes. Um, but yeah, we kind of need to stay on our own side.
That makes total
Now,
sense.
are the Russos involved at all? I mean, their names aren't on the credits page. So is this? Do you just get to have fun with the extraction story, or are they involved on the comic side as well?
I think reviewing and just kind of giving a thumbs up has been
Okay.
their, yeah, because they were kind of busy shooting the probably going to be the biggest movie ever released at the time we were
I
doing
was going to
this.
say they've been a little busy, right? A little busy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they got things going on.
Yeah,
They're trying to save the MCU, no,
Yeah.
no pressure.
Not pressure at all.
which is
Now,
funny. I mean, the whole thing started because so they made two features. They made a really cool heist comedy thing called Welcome to Collinwood.
Yep. Yep.
Then they made You, Me, and Dupree, which is kind of a rom com thing.
mm-hmm.
And then they were struggling to get back into features. They were working in TV. They worked on Arrested Development, Community, a show
Yeah.
called Carpoolers that I really liked.
I knew them as the Arrested Development guys, and then
Yeah,
Community,
right.
because I mean, Arrested Development's great, but Community is one of my all-time favorite
Yeah.
sitcoms.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure.
Well, this extraction property, which was called Ciudad at the time, was going to be the thing that we developed together that launched them back into directing features. And then between when we signed that deal and when it finally got made, they became directors of the Avengers movies and Captain America and all that. So it 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 was a long, strange road, but they got too busy to direct the damn thing. Ended up producing it instead.
First world problem.
Yeah, I was going to say
Yeah, right. Right.
Now, so
they've had a fascinating career. Like not to go on a tangent, but because like you said, I mean, they've made these massive some of the literal biggest films of all time for Marvel, and then they've done these like really like completely like left of center other stuff, right? Like and then they've had bluntly some fairly notable bombs like Electric State, right? And like
Yeah.
they've done a lot. Like they take shots. They definitely take big shots. So.
Yeah.
And listen,
I've been very
Anthony's
lucky.
Anthony's a fellow pen quaker, so I got to give him love. So I can't.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah.
They they're from Cleveland, which I think is similar to my hometown, Kansas City. We got along well. I feel very lucky that those are the guys who pulled me into Hollywood.
that is cool. Now, so speaking of Hollywood, and obviously, I mean, your books are being published by Ignition and not Legendary. Are you having fun writing comics, or are you so for Bad Thoughts? Like, are you? And I don't know if Ignition has a foothold in Hollywood or anything, but when you're working on a project or when you're creating a project, do you visualize it as a comic and you're just like, I want to make a comic, or in the back of your mind you're like, could I see this in the theaters?
I would say I'm just out to create the best comic I can with one caveat. I was told, pitch your dream project, pitch the thing you're passionate about, all that. But maybe do stay aware that you have a brand, whether you like it or not. So maybe just consider your brand when you're pitching his things. And that was no problem for me. I didn't have any desire to do a tender romance set in the French Revolution or anything like that. I like climax. I like
Damn it! I was
climax
counting on that
action.
being your next project.
So the things I was pitching tend to be crime and or historical, and that they're happy if I stay in that lane. And they do have. So basically, Eric Gitters, when I met him, he was the Hollywood side of Oni Press. They split up, and now this is his company under the same auspices. So when you sign a deal with Ignition, it's kind of a built-in Hollywood component where they will represent the stuff in Hollywood as well.
Nice.
But
So
I will
you,
say, my editor Jamie, like I never get the note, "Hey, this may not fly in the movie." Like never.
Okay, that's
you mentioned early on in the chat that you kind of like you had like a little wayward streak in comics where you really didn't know what feel like you had a home to do exactly what you wanted to do, and you were pursuing the Hollywood stuff. I mean, obviously that happens to a lot of comic creators. I think at some point, if you're around long enough, you get you get sort of a taste of it, and some really embrace it, and some absolutely hate it and want nothing to do with it after experience. Like, where do you sit with that? Like, was the experience, was it positive? Was it frustrating? Was it all of the above? I mean, is it like, okay, if it happens, cool, but I'm not going to like base the rest of my career on that as an like. I'll just leave that as an option, and I'm not going to like. Is that? It sounds to me like that's kind of the approach you're taking, which I feel like a lot of comics creators take. It's like, all right, man, if something comes of it, cool, and if I get an option, it's a nice check in the meantime,
Yeah.
that's cool. But like, I'm not counting on that as sort of the retirement plan or the next phase of my career.
Yeah, well, believe me, after waiting 12 years from when we signed the deal to when Extraction actually came out, I learned not to sit
12
around waiting for
years?
Hollywood money.
Wow, 12 years.
Um,
My goodness.
yeah.
Wow.
So I need to add a little note about what I said about how I didn't have a place to make comics. Part of that is because I realized after writing a few, I wrote a couple Daredevil annuals.
Yep.
I wrote some licensed properties for
Yeah.
Dynamite.
Yep.
I realized I did not want to chase that kind of work.
Hmm.
I didn't. I just wasn't. I didn't want to chase Batgirl. I didn't want to.
Right.
I didn't want to just try to fit into the latest event at Marvel. It just wasn't rewarding for me. I realized I think I'd rather write, create our own stuff, and get a part-time job if I have to than chase that kind of work. So I limited my own choices to some extent, happily, but still, it's not like I couldn't have sought other work. I just decided that wasn't for me.
Right.
So what happened was after I wrote a novel, and Extraction came out, and it's a huge hit, partially because it came out in April of 2020, and everybody was sitting at home watching Netflix.
I can remember my family and I huddled up watching it all together as well, just
Yeah.
in that same vein. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Netflix told us within the first month, 250 million people they think saw it.
So crazy.
That was
Wow.
like, whoa. And I thought, you know what? When somebody asked me in 30 years, what did you do with that opportunity? I didn't want to say, well, I inked a bunch of comics for DC. I wanted to shoot my shot. So, like I said, I wrote a screenplay. I developed a TV pitch with some co-creators. We wrote a pilot episode. It was very educational. I learned a lot. I'm happy for the experience. But at the end of like 2 to 3 years of that efforting, all I ended up with was a pile of notes and some heartache. So I was like,
Right.
when Ignition said, "Hey, we're going to make a company where you can pursue the same kind of projects but actually make a product that will hit store shelves and without notes from like 4 dozen producers," I was like, "Oh God, yes, please, I'm ready."
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting, man. Like I always think about that. Like Deppy made a joke about Legendary, but Legendary is who are attached to, at least for now, to develop Bitterroot. Our boy Sanford's property,
Yes,
and it's
yes,
like
yes.
I just. But then I think of like Scotty, a fellow Kansas City person, and
Mhm.
Scotty's had this obviously like off the charts success with his comics and his comic career, and it's he's like he's like force majeure, and but yet like every time I talk to him, like he's so nonchalant about that I can only take it as genuine because he's been consistent, like about the Hollywood stuff. Like,
Yeah.
because like, people are always asking him like when's I Hate Fairyland going to be made into a cartoon or a movie, and he's always like, like, and it's been optioned and stuff, but like, and I'm always like, man, like it's interesting but then I know people, and I'm sure you do too, that they get a foothold in Hollywood, and then like that's to them that's the goal. It's like, all right, well, I'm gonna pretty much do that now. And then I have mad respect for people that can balance it. I think it's really hard. I mean, Brian K. Vaughan's probably to me like the poster boy for that, right? Like he's had these like wildly successful Hollywood ventures, but then he still finds the passion to put out, from my vantage, like one of the best comics ever.
Yeah.
With Saga, so it's like I have great respect for being able to do both, and obviously it's nice to have the option to do both. But I feel like, I guess because I'm a comics fanatic, and I mean I love film and I love TV, but because comics are my heart, I'm very much always more on the side of like, yeah, man, just like make great comics, tell great stories, and then if something comes of it, awesome. But like that's not the end game. You know, I feel like you can always sniff out like a truffle pig, like when a comic is written as a treatment for a film or a TV show. Like
That's
you
what
know,
I think.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
so
yeah.
true. I'm gonna draw a parallel here to when I broke into comics in the mid '90s, early '90s, mid '90s. There was that prevalent style that swept through the industry with the Image guys in the West Coast style, with that
yeah,
kind of inking, the Scott Williamsy kind of inking and all that. And I saw some really good old school creators try to squeeze himself into that mold. And I don't think it paid off for any of them because the audience can tell when you're not being sincere.
Yep.
So I think you cannot second guess. You cannot look at the marketplace and say, aha, I'm going to make $1 million with this because that's what the marketplace wants. It just comes off as phony. Um, this project has been in my head for like a decade. As I said, it has a very personal connection for me, and it comes right from my soul, and I think the audience can tell that. If you try to fake it, it just shows through, I think.
yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, and again, I mean, again, just to be clear, I mean, reading this, it just felt like a great comic to me, you know.
Yeah, good.
But you know, and I think like with many great comics, it's easy in the world we live in now. You know, obviously we're all roughly the same age. When we were kids getting into comics, I mean, the idea of a comic being turned into like a pop culture event just was foreign. I mean, we had the Superman film, we had the Donner films, but like, you know, and then obviously in the '80s we got Batman. But even then, it still felt like that was like a like a unicorn. We were like, oh my god, they made a successful movie about a comic book character. You know, like it didn't feel like. And you know, now it's just changed so much. With my sons are all in they're all young men now, and they've grown up in a world where there is no dividing line. Like the vast majority of the Earth's populace know these characters because of film and TV, and have never read any of the comics of these characters, and like that seems weird to us, but like that's just commonplace. And so it's like I respect that there's that. So it's only natural that anytime people read a great comic now, they think, oh, that could be a great TV show or that could be a great movie. And like, so
Yeah.
I don't like, I'm not against like any great comic idea being turned into another media property. Hell, I'm all for it. In fact, like I can't wait for Brubaker's Criminal. Like that's gonna be, I hope, incredible. Or it could absolutely suck too because it's hard. It's such a perfect comic. But I'm saying like I'm really hopeful it's an awesome TV show. But that being said, like Criminal always be a great comic for me. Like that someone just happened to figure out a way to make it into a great TV show. You know, so
Right.
yeah. So
I
I mean,
like to
so
think-
for your bank account, I hope that your Ignition comics become massive Hollywood properties, but only because you did the quote unquote right way and just made a good comic.
Right. Me too. I joke with people. I always make it clear. Look, I did not create Extraction on my own. The Russos created the idea. They brought me into development. And then the joke is, if I had created it on my own, we wouldn't be talking because I'd be on an island somewhere and I wouldn't be. So,
Yeah, for sure. I wonder too, like with the the Berserker thing that Keanu and Matt Kint did. It
yeah.
was such a massive success as a comic. I just always assumed that because it was created by Keanu Reeves, it was going to be like like it was all just in the
franchise.
yeah, it was going to be a franchise
Yeah.
for films. Like and at least and maybe it is. I mean, maybe they're developing it, but like Keanu's in the '60s now, so it's like I'm like I guess maybe he just wanted to make a cool comic because that comic sold, and again it was the pandemic held a hand in that, but like that comic sold insane numbers. I mean,
Yeah.
like it was a crazy popular comic, and
Yeah.
and
Well, I'm not an old pro in Hollywood, but I've seen enough to know that there are like 1,000 reasons for a movie to fall apart,
yeah,
and you just never know. I mean, like I said, 12 years of kind of development. No, well, about 9 to 10 of those were actually in development. Then they started shooting, and then it was time for the movie to come out. But so many false starts, and so many different guys that were going to star in it, and the point where
yeah.
when
Like
my
you get called by your
producer-
agent, you're like, oh, so and so's attached to star, and you're like, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Right, and then it's like, oh no, he's doing
last 2
the
weeks.
Spielberg movie
Yeah.
instead. You're like, oh, okay.
I remember when Eric Gitter finally told me, I was in Hollywood. He took me to breakfast. He said, "It's a done deal. Just start shooting. They got Hemsworth. It's a done deal." And I was so dated at that point. I was like, "Eric, come on, man. I've heard it before."
Damn.
Like
He's like,
Hemsworth's Thor, dude. They're like, it's just until he
That's
see
what-
Thor again. Dude. It's like,
I mean, that's
he was like,
it's
"Okay, you'll see, you'll see." And I went home and I was kind of depressed. And 5 days later, I opened up Twitter and there's a picture of Chris on the set, and I'm like, "Oh,
I guess it's happening.
I think
That's
they're
fun.
making this damn thing." Yeah.
that's fun.
I mean, yeah, I guess after so many years, you'd feel jaded. But I mean, I just think, and I'm sure my wife wanted to see the movie because of Hemsworth, and I can only, it's
Yeah.
it's something that no matter, and I've no idea. I'm not asking. I don't know what other leading men would have were attached to it, but considering you've got one of the heavy hitters from the MCU. Who dabbles in a couple other things here and there. He did the that White Hat Hacker movie. I think Michael Mann did that. And so I know, it's nice to see him doing other things. But the fact that is he Chris Hemsworth on a Netflix movie, and that's that. And yeah, I get that. You were on that road for a while until you actually finally saw some real evidence. But
Yeah.
for me, hearing someone like Hemsworth attached to it would have just it would have sat a little bit more upright. But it's I absolutely it's I think he's great for the character. But yeah, knowing that knowing where the story came from and that it I don't think I was aware that it was so. It was basically a Russo's property initially.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's nice that they you got the baton and were able to run with it, because it's
Yeah.
between and for Ignition to then continue the story, or at least the beginning of the story. I think it's been a great ride. I think and I'm like I said, I mean, we started off talking about Bad Thoughts and how great that is. I'm glad that we'll occasionally maybe get a variant cover that you had a hand in, because I'd hate to think that one of my all-time favorite inkers is just solely a writer these days.
Right.
I didn't need to ask if you're still picking up the brush and fooling around from time to time, because obviously you are, because we'll see a cover here or there. But do you ever like wake up in the middle of the night with an itch, or figure I got to put pen to Bristol, or you're just like I just got to type away on my keyboard instead?
I do sometimes want to pick up a brush and just kind of draw on my own, and I'll do stuff like that every now and then. I have a series going on where I'm drawing characters from Batman '66, and I enjoy stuff like that. But yeah, when I'm inking these days, like Phil and I did that variant cover for Bad Thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
and some asshole writer picked signed off on the hardest sketch he submitted, which had like 100 faces on it, and when I was done inking it, I was like, God damn it, that's enough for a while. Um, yeah, I still enjoy it. But I'm conscious when I'm doing it now that it's taking time away from scripting, which I find difficult, and I can't beef. Writing is easier than drawing.
Sure.
You can solve a writing problem. I mean, physically, like I can solve a writing problem on the golf course. Nothing happens on my drafting table unless I'm sitting at the damn thing.
Yeah.
But it is also it's more challenging mentally. Every day I go to the script and think, oh God, am I going to pull this off? Why aren't I a real professional? I bet a real professional would just dash this scene right off, which I know every writer probably feels that way, and so it goes. So yeah, I miss it every now and then, and eventually I'd like to get to a place where I'm writing full time and I have time to draw for fun. That would be the dream. Just
Right.
haven't quite found that balance yet.
Yeah, I mean, as an art hound, it breaks my heart how many of you artists end up just quote unquote just becoming writers. But I get it. Like
It's
like you
hard,
said,
man. Bending over that table for 30 years takes a toll.
yeah, the physical aspects not to be are a massive part, but then also, I mean, bluntly, you can you can write 2, 3, 4, 5 books at a time. You can't
Yeah.
draw 2, 3, 4, 5 books at a time. So
And part
I
of
get it.
part of why I decided way back when I wanted to have a career as an inker. I got that. And then it didn't take long before I went, you know what I really want? I want some things out in the world that I have a stake in.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that was not going to happen as an inker. So I found a way. It was hard. We had young kids at the time, but I found a way to bet on myself as a writer to keep the lights on by inking Green Arrow, but also be working on a Union Station scene at night.
Yeah.
Love that.
And that paid off, not in a way I ever expected. I figured Union Station would get made and I'd make some money that way. I'd never, I never dreamed that the Russos would come along and we'd develop this thing together. It would become this huge franchise. But thank God.
That's a happy accident.
Yeah. Right.
And you still do the art trade at cons with the kids, right?
I do. Yeah, I just had a couple good ones at some little show I was at recently. And it's it has to happen organically. The only ones I've ever had that I did that I felt didn't go very well is because the parent kind of instigated them and came up and said, "It was, no, I don't. That's not the way it goes." There's just sometimes I can see a look in a kid's eyes when he's looking across the table, he or she, and kind of looking at the artwork or looking at the pen I'm using. And I'll just look over and say, "Hey, do you like to draw?" And we go from there. And it's super rewarding. I love that.
That's so fun. That's got to be great. The I lost my train of thought because Jason, you mentioned something else before. Damn it, I'm totally screwed up.
I'll go back,
The
David. You mentioned something, and I can drop a few names because nobody. It's not like the studio or the Russos or ever rejected anybody. It just had meetings, and then it doesn't happen. Whatever.
sure,
I remember them calling and saying, "Hey, we're meeting with Brad Pitt."
Interesting.
naturally.
Meeting with Will Smith at one point, and he wanted to change everything because he's
Will Smith,
wacko.
yeah.
'Cause he's Big Willie. Yeah.
Channing Tatum was mentioned at one point. It felt like Channing Tatum was getting mentioned in like every comic book
He
thing
was.
in development in Hollywood. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Which it makes him being gambited recently all the funnier because
Yeah,
he
yeah.
just embraced it. Yeah. Yeah.
But I felt so lucky when Chris came up, because the Russos got to know him. And then you see him on screen. He's just big. He looks like John Wayne. He's just big compared to everybody else. And the way he strides, he fits the character so perfectly.
Yeah, much like Dap said about his wife. My wife absolutely adores Hemsworth, and I think it's because he did some show, and I forget the name of it, but my wife and my youngest son watched some show. I assume it was on Netflix because I feel like everything Hemsworth does is on Netflix. But it was like about him, like his real life and like going on adventures, like doing like extreme stuff.
Yes. Do you know the
And-
origin of that?
I don't, but they were telling me all while they're watching it about like, and they were just like glazing the dude every day at dinner, like, "Oh, did you know the Hemsworth?" And I'm like, "Oh my god,"
'Cause of
I'm
his
like,
illness, right?
But like they love the dude
so-
though, but they were like they made me convinced that like because in Hollywood, I mean, like we like film, we like actors because like of the way they come off on screen, but we don't know they could be absolute assholes in real life. But my wife and my son convinced me that Hemsworth's like a genuinely like great dude because and
Yeah,
now again
yeah.
maybe. I mean, obviously, this documentary I think he was executive produced his own documentary, but they were like, "Oh, he's such a great dude," and I'm like, "Oh, that's cool."
It's
I'm
either
like,
a
"Oh, I
Nat
hope he
Geo
is."
or a Disney Plus Hulu show. But yes,
I think it was
but
Nat Geo, maybe. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, he does seem to be like a good dude. So what happened was his father passed, I believe. I don't know if it was Alzheimer's or some kind of advanced dementia or whatever. But then Chris took the test and found out that he was genetically predisposed to the same.
Oh, right.
And so he decided a couple things. He said, "I want to shoot in Australia, so I'd rather not be away so much." And then he talked to doctors, and they said, "Hey, one of the best ways you can protect your brain is to constantly be taking on new challenges, especially challenges that make you uncomfortable and push you out of your zone." So yeah, that show he walked on a tightrope. There was
Yeah.
one. It's not all stuff like that. He learned to play drums like in a month, well enough that he went on stage and played a live concert with. Help me out. The Irish singer songwriter, you dude.
Oh, Ed Sheeran.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
go.
wow.
Yeah. He had to learn drums well enough to go on stage and play a song with him.
Respect.
Just stuff that is daunting to help keep his brain limber.
That's great.
Fantastic. I love that.
By the way, I remember I remember I think Extraction One maybe was about to come out, and I opened Twitter. I used to be on Twitter back in the day,
Yeah.
and
Same.
he's trending, and I'm like, oh shit, oh god, Chris, why are you trending? It was just promotion for Men in Black or some such thing. I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, I forgot he was in that. Gee, I
Yeah,
forgot he was
yeah,
in that.
with Tessa Thompson, him and Valkyrie.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. Oh, that's
Yeah.
right. Valkyrie and Thor. That's right. Yeah. Oh shit.
Good
So I
stuff.
don't think Chris is ever going to trend for bad reasons. He seemed like a genuinely good dude to me.
Nah, for sure. For
I
sure.
agree. Yeah, I know that we
And he was
we
way
joke
out in front of
around.
AI being evil with the Super Bowl commercial. He was like all over AI being evil,
Exactly.
even though it was an Amazon commercial, but nevertheless,
No.
Yeah,
he's not lost.
yeah. We always when we joked. Speaking of Baltimore, we were joking around at dinner with Jason, me, and our friend Mario, and we were talking about some other actors and whatnot, and how Jason and I feel about Jason Bateman. Whereas Mario figures, he's just like probably one of the most heinous people in Hollywood. Like you can't trust him or anything. And we're like, what are you basing this on? Like where is this coming from?
Yeah, it was
But-
crazy. It was a crazy take because I listen to Smartless like I think half of the world, and like I think Jason is definitely like entitled and like he's like a little bit of a diva, but like so say we all. I mean,
Yeah.
but he seems like a pretty fun dude to me. I
Yeah.
don't know. I
So
don't-
is he assuming that the snark that his characters represent kind of seeps into the real guy?
I think so.
I don't feel like Mario gave us a good explanation. He was
did
just
not.
going on
He
instinct.
did
He was
not.
going on instinct.
Yeah,
he's just going on
it was
instinct.
weird. Like, did he cut you off
Yeah.
in traffic or something one day? I don't. So yeah, it's just
Yeah,
it's
I
one of
want to
those
know what they put in the water in Kansas City that creates so many awesome comic creators, or what they put in the water that makes a lot of people even want to end up settling there. Because you guys roll deep. I mean, for Kansas City's a big area. It's like a fairly large population, but like it's not like it's not Metropolis. You know what I mean? Like, and you got
Right.
like per
still
capita,
Kansas
you got a
City.
lot of badass comic creators. It's yeah.
It's true. It's true. I'd like to say they all just came because they wanted to drink with me, but I don't think that's true.
I guess a lot of
I
them
go
are
to Kansas
transplants,
City.
right? Like
Yeah.
Scotty's a transplant. I think Jason Aaron's a transplant,
Jason
right?
Aaron,
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, homegrown. We got Kyle Strom, Dennis Hopeless, a bunch. Yeah,
I assume
Jeremy-
is Jeremy. I mean, I've always
he's a couple
associated him
hours
with Kansas
away in
City.
Joplin,
Okay,
Missouri, but
yeah,
Joplin. That's right. Yes. Yeah. Joplin, Missouri.
right.
we call him the Duke of Joplin because he and his wife moved there and started buying properties, and they own them.
I was gonna say he's
Oh
like
my
Mr.
God.
50 doors and up, right? Like he owns like half of Joplin, right? Like
Right.
yeah, Mr. Passive Income.
That's awesome.
I told him we don't. When it's Joplin, we don't call you the king. We just call you the Duke.
That's great.
For sure.
Oh man.
He's another one. I mean, you guys have like obviously the Beauty just came out. I mean, that's and
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess it's different, like because you were saying, you obviously had a hand in it, but it was the Russo's idea, and then they kind of brought you in to help make it reality. I've had conversations with creators. I mean, one that comes to mind in particular is Jeff Lemire with Sweet Tooth. My family adored the Netflix show, and I'm the only comic reader in my family, so they had, other than me telling them, oh, this is my boy Jeff's like comic series, like that meant nothing to them. They loved the show. They absolutely adored the show. But I remember like calling Jeff when the first season, I was like, my man, like Sweet Tooth, and I could just tell I think he's very happy with the check that he got from Netflix, but I got the sense that he almost wanted nothing to do with it because the show is nothing at all like his comic, and he made but it wasn't like, but I think it's like you make you make the deal, like the deal's the deal. You once you hand your baby to someone else to do something else with it, it's no longer your baby, and you have to be mentally okay with that, right? Like
That's the way I mean, it's easy for me to say because Extraction came off pretty literally representing what we intended.
right. Yeah, I thought they were very enjoyable films personally.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah.
But my attitude has always been, hey, nobody twisted your arm to sign the deal.
right.
So if you're gambling, and it would hurt. I mean, if something came out and I felt it no longer represented my vision, I would have to dab my tears with $100 bills and say, I'll try harder next time. And,
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, like you said, you always
And
have the
it's not
option.
like
You
the-
can always
it's not
you
like
can always
the
choose to
project.
like stand on principle and be like, probably the most famous to me is Jeff Smith, right? Like Bone has been pitched. He's had Bone. Bone has been optioned like 20 times at this point. Like and he keeps taking. I'm sure he's happy to take the option check. but like he's always wanted it to be a certain thing, and he's pulled the plug on it many times, and and like respect, like it's his property. That's the beauty of it, you owning it, right? Like you can choose to let it be something else entirely for monetary reasons, or you can protect it because it's your baby, and if you don't get the ability to handle the creative control, then so be it. Like it's like that's the beauty of owning something, right? Like you get to have the say, and you get to make that mental trade-off whether you're comfortable.
And it's not like, it's not like a less than stellar From Hell movie wiped the From Hell graphic novel from existence. It's still out there for
Right.
people
It's true.
who want it.
Or the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen,
Yeah.
right? Or yeah.
Can't all be
That's
Alan
true.
Moore happy
Or
with
Sin
our
City,
adaptations.
or yeah.
Well, Sin City is just. I mean, that's a straight. That was just a storyboard come to life. There was no.
Yeah.
There was no straying from.
It's
from
true.
source material
They got
on
the
it.
look right because, like you said, it's pretty much that's true.
The only thing that bothers me about Sin City, and listen, props to Jessica for standing her ground, but that wasn't Nancy. If it wasn't, if you're everything else in the movie is going to take place exactly the way it is in the comic book. The fact that you're at a topless bar and you're not topless is just it. And not that I want to see Jessica. Not that I necessarily want to see Jessica topless, but it's just. I mean, that's the character is what it called for.
I told you the story before, Dad, but for Andy's sake, I had the chance to meet Jessica a few years ago in person in my day job because I'm a portfolio manager, and she was at a investor conference for her company Honest that she founded.
Oh, huh.
And so I got to have a little, like, it was like a meet and greet sort of a thing, and I got to, I was introduced to her, and we're sitting there chatting for a bit. And I must say, like, again, I mean, I'm 51 years old. I've been in the investment finance world for 30 years now, right? I've been a comics nerd for 40. Like, I honestly am not the kind of person to get starstruck. Like, I just don't, like, I'm not that, it's just not my vibe, Like, I'm totally comfortable meeting someone and just, like, it's just meeting a regular person. But, like, I was absolutely captivated by her. Like, I was like, such so that I was conscious in the moment of, like, I have to make sure I'm, like, moving my eyes around. I don't want her to think I'm staring at her. Like because she made me that nervous. I was like, she was a heavenly creature. Like, so yes, maybe she didn't perform as she should have in Sin City, but I'm gonna give her
forgive
a
right now.
pass.
But see now,
She's
how
she's a magical creature. She's a magical creature.
And but you're going to give me crap for being tongue tied and not wanting to go into detail on with Dennis Cowan on an elevator. I don't understand. But
I mean, respectfully, you're not sexually attracted to Dennis Cowan. I mean,
no, that's true.
A little different.
Yeah,
a little different.
I had the opportunity, Andy, last year at Baltimore to meet Dennis finally after years of being
tongue tied like a motherfucker
of his work, and
tongue tied like a bitch.
He's
and
such
I was,
a sweetheart.
He is. He absolutely is.
Yeah.
We exchanged information. I told him, I'd love to have him on the podcast. He says he's going to, and I still have to continue that conversation. But, I told him, go ahead. I'll send you links so you can listen to it, so you can kind of get a feel for what you might be in store for. And then we were one morning. We were getting ready to head to the con at Heroes, and Jason and I are in the elevator, and Dennis Cowan's in there, and I'm just small talk. It's hot down here. How you doing? What's going on? Blah blah blah. And Jason's just like, bro, like you completely fumbled that. But I didn't. What am I? He's not working. He's not at the con. We're in an elevator. Like, I'm not gonna like grill him. I'm not gonna do 20 questions right now. It's just one of those things. But yes, it was very similar with Priest, and we met him at New York Comic Con ages ago.
Yeah.
But and I put my foot in it because I kind of I'm an old school George Perez Deathstroke fan, and obviously, I mean, you give me a Deathstroke comic, especially if it's going to be written by Priest, I'm there. But I wasn't in love with the costume, and I might have mentioned that only to find out that Christopher Priest himself had designed that look, and I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to shut up now because I'm good.
I had no idea. Wow.
Yeah. So, but no, it's there are. There are a couple creators that we. Same thing with Hayden Sherman. I got to reach out to him because I'd love to have a chat with him, providing he can tear himself away from the 18 comics he's drawing a month, and
for sure. You did that. You made me think of something like Andy. Like, again, you've been in comics for so long. Like, has there ever been a moment as a creator though, where because obviously you are like me, a fellow art OA lover. Like, where you've marked out, you found yourself not nervous per se, but like like sort of like awestruck and be like, holy shit, like I'm getting to know this person, or I got to meet this person, because Again, I don't think it happens
Yeah,
to us very often, but like I think it happens to all of us at some point, right? Like,
I have several of those that have gone very well. Kevin Nolan has become a dear friend, and
Oh, nice.
we trade texts and all. That still blows my mind a little, but he's just Kevin now. He's a buddy. The one that I have never recovered from um, is Walt Simonson. I think I've been around Walt 5 times and I haven't acted normal yet. Doubt it will ever happen at this point. And again, he's a total sweetheart. It's not him.
Yep.
I just, somewhere that dark part of my brain kicks up the stupid thing to say every time. And yeah, oh well. What kind of
that's a
not
good
good?
one.
Yeah,
And
totally get that.
so the comic that most inspired me ever. I had a lot of comics when I was little, mainly Richie Rich and that kind of stuff. And I drifted away from comics and rediscovered them in junior high. But the one comic I kept from that earlier era was I had the issue of Detective Comics. It starts with the Alex Toth biplane Batman job and ends with Manhunter Chapter 6
Oh man, yeah.
by Goodwin and Simonson. And that
Hmm.
that I was so captivated by Manhunter,
Yep.
sorry, that I have it probably in 5 different formats here behind
Yeah.
me on my shelves.
Yes.
But him and Archie, I was a little that way with Archie too. I just revere them so much; it's hard for me to get over it.
Sure. It's funny you say Manhunter because being born in 74 and being a child of the 80s and falling in love with comics at the perfect time in the very early 80s, which you don't get, like, I would argue still 84 to 86 is arguably the best comics run ever. um but either way, I of course, like anyone our age, like Thor, Simonson Thor is like it for me. And
Oh yeah, yeah.
but like, so I was a Marvel zombie for the first 20 years of my comics fandom. In fact, we started the show, I mean, 18 years ago now, but like when we started the show, Dap will remember, like I was pretty much a Marvel dude. Like
Yeah.
I really hadn't read almost any DC, honestly, like except for
Mhm.
like some of the classics, and obviously that's changed quite a lot over the last 20 years. But I remember probably like whenever that latest version of the DC beautiful oversized hardcover version of Manhunter came out,
Yeah.
because David had always talked about how much he loved the Manhunter by Simonson. So it was always sort of in my back of my mind. And so when that book got solicited, I bought it, and then I was so blown away by it because I run into this, and maybe you have too, Andy, with older kids, like trying to get my kids to be into comics over the years. Like I often the most the times I failed were when I tried to get them to read something that was formative for me, because it often just doesn't age well. Not because they're not great, but because they were of a moment, and you had
Yeah.
like this expository dialogue, and like again, it
Sequences.
was the today people reading comics, they don't remember that like these were like on shelves and meant to be crumpled up and forgotten about, and so they had to like basically reset the story every month, and so like it just doesn't translate to the way people consume media now.
Right.
And many of my all-time favorite comics, most notably to me, like Claremont X-Men, I don't think particularly age well, in the sense that, like, if you hand someone Burn Claremont X-Men right now, like, and they weren't comics fans back in the day, it's going to be a slog for a lot of them. They're like, I don't know, this is like a
Yeah.
lot too wordy. Whereas I remember reading, I expected when I opened up Manhunter that I would enjoy it because of I could put myself into that time, because I was reading comics back then, and I could enjoy it for what it was, and I knew how much David loved it. But I was so blown away by how timeless it felt. Like I felt like and credit to Archie Good, like it read like a modern comic. Like it wasn't overly expository.
Yeah.
It was just well done, and it aged really well. And I thought, man, like that is a rarity. Like comics of that era do not feel like, they just feel aged, and that work did not. So yeah, that's a great comic. It definitely a
They
treasure that
also
more people.
feel very rewarding despite being like 8-page stories. It's just
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah,
And Archie said he drew on uh, the spirit, went back to the source for short stories in comics.
yeah.
And but it's really brilliant stuff. And by the way, you touched on something that I enjoy talking about. There was a transition in comics, and you didn't address it directly, but I think it's what happened. Comics writing by and large moved from very aspirations to people with cinematic aspirations. And so we lost that omniscient narrator voice that, like Claremont, would carry on for paragraphs, and then Cyclops did this, and then the blah blah blah, and we all took that's the way comics were, and now that feels so out of place because we've embraced filmic techniques of narration, and we've kind of gotten rid of that whole authorial narrator voice. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I would love to write a comic that way, but I just fear it would seem very dated in this marketplace.
I think
It's interesting, right? Yeah, and again, like it's like the like it's the oral means like, oh, kids don't want to read comics like that, but then it's like the jaded part of me is like, well, kids don't really read comics, and I think that was true. But here's the thing, I feel so much less jaded than I would have even been 2 years ago if we were talking about this very subject because, and again, all the credit to DC and to a lesser extent, but also like to Skybound. I don't know what it is, but right now, and I'm sure you're in the same boat. You talk to publishers, you talk to LCS owners, you talk to, we're friends with Christina at DC at Lunar. We are in a genuine, like no bullshit renaissance where young people are picking up superhero comic books, largely because of Absolute and enjoying them, like unironically in numbers that we haven't seen in a long, long time, and that is so fucking awesome to me. I'm here for it. I love the idea that we have a whole generation figuring out the comics are badass. And comics they're never going to go away. They wouldn't have gone away, regardless of what happened with superhero comics. But it is pretty cool to think that there are, tons of new young people getting into these characters, and they're different versions of the characters, which is totally cool. But I just love that, and I just warms my heart. And I 2 years ago, I don't think I would have had that stance. I would have been like, it's just a bygone era. It's a difficult medium now with the prices, and and with so many other options in terms of video content. But now it seems like, at least for now, and I don't know how long the window will stay open, but for now, people are like fully embracing good old fashioned comics. It's great.
A lot of store signings recently to promote these two books, and God, what that line has done for retailers is hard to measure.
Absolutely, yeah, it's really great.
Yeah.
What it's done for,
No pun
yeah,
intended.
it's awesome. I mean, we actually we put like guardrails on ourselves because, and I guess any podcast that comes out weekly, like we're like, we gotta like watch how many times we talk about Absolute because we can't spend every week like talking about the latest Absolute comic. Like it's because it's we've made our bones being varied and talking about a litany of different things. So let's like check ourselves and like check it every couple months and not every month.
Right. Right.
And that said, only because I was you were talking about the change in attitude or how the stories are presented, and whether we can blame Frank in the 80s or Alan with Watchmen or Frank with Dark Knight. I still, and that's only because of when I was growing up reading and back then, but I do miss from when the stories were kind of told in present time with thought balloons as opposed to caption boxes, because they just, to me at times, they feel like a flashback, and that just means that so if Batman's telling this story in caption boxes, I know he's going to survive at the end of the story. There's no real drama for me. But then lo and behold, in the
But that Batman's not going to die anyway, though.
No, yes, you do know that, or at least maybe he'll end up in the Lazarus pit by the end of it, so he's fine. But
right,
but and again, this wasn't intended. But in the latest issue of Absolute Superman, there are thought balloons because John Henry Irons is talking to Superman and to Black Adam, and he's saying one thing, but he's thinking the opposite, and you see that happening, and it's like, holy crap! It's
that's
Jason
so cool.
Aaron's bringing back word balloons, yay! I just so it's thought bubbles, but yeah, it doesn't.
Bendis has always been a fan of the thought bubbles too.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's one of those things where it's just another tool. It's another way for the writer to get the story across, and but yeah, there are times where I get it. Whether it's that's what the story calls for, or it's meant to be cold or unfeeling, or the character is methodical, and you just get to read these boxes of text. But no, I do like to know. I like knowing that the character is actually thinking that and not writing it in a journal, or someone else is thinking that on their behalf. But yeah, it's
Sure. Andy, do you still make a point to read comics, or do you sporadically? What's your view on comics reading these days? Do you stick to the old stuff? Do you?
I'm kind of, yeah, I become that old douchebag comic creator is like, I don't hardly read anything new. It's terrible. Partially because I don't get out to the store very often. I do, every now and then. Um, I like the Ignition stuff I've read. I always like Jeremy's work. I like a book they have called The Voyeur a lot, which is kind of a sexy heist thing.
Yep.
He gets enough credit, but what the hell? I like Fractions Batman quite a bit.
uh-huh.
And then there's some just buddies who put out stuff. I always read whatever
Sure.
Phil Hester does, but I don't seek a lot out. I try to read when I'm writing fiction. I try to read autobiographies and stuff like that. I don't want anybody else's like fiction voice in my head all the time. Does that make sense?
Sure. I mean, it makes sense in that lots of writers have that perspective. I'm not a comic writer, so
Yeah.
I don't share that worldview, but I get that you all. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always,
Yeah, it's interesting.
like if I
Like
start reading Stephen King, I don't want his kind of rhythm to set into my stuff at all. So
right. That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's just so foreign. I mean, I understand. Like, I don't think I can put myself in your shoes because I guess I've just spent so much of my life as a consumer of all these things, like, and a passionate consumer that I can't figure out. Like, I guess it would taint me if I was trying to write something like, but since I'm not, I just not a factor for me. But I
it
get
could
it.
be that I'm just weak-willed,
Well, I don't like again
easily influenced.
like I feel like everybody's different. Like we have our buddy Tony Fleece is like he comes on a lot and he still reads tons of new comics like all the time, and he says it helps him. Whereas like
Yeah.
Scotty like hasn't read a new comic since like 72. Like my guy doesn't read comics, he doesn't podcast anymore, and it's like, and I'm always giving him shit. I'm like, dude, like I don't know, I think that's bad. Like I think not reading any comics is bad. Like like to me, it's like you find inspiration, and I was so heartened. That movie Backrooms that just came out. Like I was listening to a podcast with the kid that created it, and he's 20 years old. And it's like, wow, 20 years old making this movie, it's incredible. And the interviewer was like, well, what are you going to do now? Like now you've got you've been working on this because his Backrooms got optioned by the studio when he was 16 years old. So basically, from the time he was 16 till his time he was 20, he was making this film. And he's like, you
Wow.
know what? He's like, I've been making this film since I was 16. He's like, I'm 20 now. He's like, I haven't watched TV or read a book or watched a movie in pretty much 2 years. And I'm just going to spend the next 6 months like sucking up as much creativity from other people as I can to find inspiration. And I was like, that's fucking
Yeah, yeah.
great. Like, I'm like, I love that, man. Cause like, I don't know, like, I just find like, to me, like, that's why I love original art. Like, just, I'm constantly inspired by like new voices, new vision. It's just like like it just excites me when and Dap's probably tired of me saying this because there's been periods of the time of doing the show where I'm like not jaded, but I'm just like it was okay. And they're like, they're like, you're like rarely passionate about anything, and I'm like, well, it's because like everything's the same, like, and because not because it's bad, but because we're old and I've read thousands and thousands of comics, so like I can see the matrix. So what
Right.
really turns me on is when something feels different, and it doesn't take a lot. Like it can be the visual approach, it can be the way you characterize like the lead character, it can be a plot twist that I haven't seen a million times. But like I want to feel like there's something in the experience that is not something I've seen 100 times before. And I know that's a
Yeah.
big ask, just because I'm old. Like I get it. And I'm not just old. And I'm an old obsessive compulsive person who have literally pretty much read like every comic that like has existed, right? So it's like, like I get it, but like for me, what really turns me on is feeling inspired by new things. It's why I love when we go on vacation, going to museums, much to my kids' chagrin, because it's like I want to see things I've never seen before. Like that turns me on. And so, but yeah, but no shade. Like again, I mean, you guys have to like making a living, and I guess if I was a gynecologist, I probably wouldn't like to look at nude pictures of women as much, right? Like it's like if I was making comics, maybe I wouldn't be
Yeah.
as wanting to spend my little free time that I have in reading comics. I get it.
I tell you what, though, to mention Fraction again, he did a video that's been all over Blue Sky and other place for some comic store talking about what he's reading these days in comics.
Mhm.
And that made me think, you know what, I need to seek out some of these younger creators' work because he was talking about stuff I'd never heard of. And it hit me. those young creators grew up with a different set of rules in their head for how comics can work, because they're probably into more manga than I was. They're into they probably grew up reading the scholastic stuff that I have never encountered, and it might broaden my horizons just as far as storytelling possibilities if I sought some of that stuff out. So Matt kind of inspired me to go to the comic store and try to find some of that stuff.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I saw that video actually. So yeah, Fraction's a cool dude, you know. And again, like
Yeah.
he's an old message board newsletter dude. Like he was a comics super fan before he was a comics creator, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
so yeah, that's great. So what else? So I mean, obviously we've got 5 issues of this, and then we'll stay tuned if there's more. Hopefully there is. Based on the quality of it, I sure hope there is, and the fact that you said it's Ignition's top selling first issue, but we'll see. Do you have anything else in the hopper? And I realize you may not be able to get into specifics, but do you have other things lined up, or you're still sort of stewing? Where do
I'm
we
kind
stand
of
with that?
all in on Ignition these days. I pitch them
Right.
stuff every year and they sign off on one or two.
Nice.
So I can't talk about my next thing yet, but it is Ignition. I think I can say it's crime and it's period. I've had a lot of fun working on it. I'm almost done with the 5 issue script for that, and the artist is nowhere near it yet. So
Okay.
it may take a while.
And when you say
And
period,
then
are we talking like Bronte sisters? Are we talking
um,
Savage Land? Like what period are we talking here, Andy?
similar to my Union Station book.
Oh, okay,
I
cool.
figured.
Okay.
That kind of, yeah. And then my next thing has already been signed off on by Ignition, and I've done a little research. It's it's set in a place that I had to go get to know a little bit, so I've already got the next thing on the board, and then yeah, hopefully I'll dive back into either Bad Thoughts or Extraction and just keep rolling and pitching
Awesome.
new things. But I'm all in on Ignition for now. I hope it lasts for a while.
Love
I
it.
mean, well, I know that I've been, well, outside of imprints like Absolute, or even as much fun as Ghost Machine is, because I mean, you know, Red Coat is great, Hyde Street is fun. I'm enjoying the imprints, but when then I come across things like Bloodwire or Junk Punch from Mad Cave, and now we see, you know, Ignition lighting things up. Like I'm really happy with some of the small press, if you want to call them that, or indie publishers that seem to be sprouting up. And whether, I mean, even with, like, you know, is Ted okay from Mad Cave? Like, it's nice to see someone who grew up reading comics in the '80s, when you know, when obviously I had Marvel and DC, but I also had Eclipse and First and Kamiko, but now it's been the big two plus Image and Dark Horse for so long that it's you know, Boom came out and had a lot of good stuff, and Oni has the licensed things with Rick and Morty and a few other things here and there. Uh, but again, seeing things from like Mad Cave, Ignition, some of the other Titan, some of the other smaller publishers in the back of the catalog, I love seeing what they're bringing to the table. So whether it's something like like Bloodwire, or even Bad Thoughts like this, it's nice to know that if we decide to talk about something on a podcast one night, and someone's not going to roll their eyes because, oh my god, they're talking about Superman again, or Batman or Spider-Man. Like, we can actually bring something different to their ears, and lately from the other publishers, it's all been solid stuff. So I'm happy that Ignition exists. I'm happy that you're attached to them, because even, I mean, yeah, Extraction obviously exists outside of comics, but something like Bad Thoughts is just, it's been a blast. Again, I mean, we've only gotten 2 issues, or at least I've only read 2 issues, but I can't wait to see where you take it from there.
Big facts.
Right. I think we're seeing a little renaissance for creators to tell creator-owned stories right now,
Yeah.
and get decent distribution and actually get their stuff out there. It's still possible to make a living for the big two, and people who for whom that has been a dream. God bless them. And I certainly enjoyed my time doing that. But Yeah, I'm just thankful there's a place for us to tell more personal stories and have some ownership in stuff and still keep the lights on.
And the
Yeah, I
ownership
think that's. I
is
mean,
key.
that's the other cool thing about, like, we were saying about the Absolute. It's like, it's not even. I mean, David and I and Vince are massive fans of what Absolute is doing, and I think it's all. I think the hype and the excitement is justified. But like, it's also that getting people to the stores because they want to get those comics also inherently exponentially increases the ability for other comics to get sold and exposed, right? And that's the thing, right? You talk to LCS, it's like people are coming in for Absolute Batman and Absolute Wonder Woman, but they're leaving with Bad Thoughts and Dork, and you know what I mean, like,
Right.
because they're like in the store too, and they're like, oh, what else should I get? And they're like, what else is good? And it's like, it's that part that was missing for a few years, right? Mainly because, let's be honest, because Marvel's down bad, right? Like, and again, I'm not like, I'm a lifelong Marvel fan, but like, in my opinion, and this is just one man's opinion, Marvel creatively has never been worse in my life, and I mean that like sincerely. I think right now it's in its, now again, it's cyclical. I'm looking forward to the eventual comeback, but right now it's down bad. And generally speaking, even though DC has always been like a really strong number two and has always had tons of good comics coming out at any given time, generally speaking, if you ask LCS owners, they would say, like, as Marvel went, so did they, right? Like Marvel was the main draw to get people in the store, and then they could sell everything else. And I just think it's so awesome that that we're at a point now where other comics lines and ideas are thriving because of DC pulling people in, and it doesn't have to be like the fact that Marvel's down bad isn't making it impossible to sell creator-owned books. And so, salute to everybody, because I mean, I could read creator-owned books only and exclusively for the rest of my life and be way happier than. And again, I enjoy superhero comics just fine, but I don't need them. I need creator-owned books of people expressing personal ideas in unique ways that we haven't seen before. And so, salute to you, salute to all your peers, salute to Ignition. Our talk has made me think we need to have Jeremy back on soon. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
for sure.
we need to be more actively in support of what Ignition is doing, because it's one of the publishers that is getting it right now.
Yeah, they're doing a good job. And you touched on something I hadn't really thought about. Not only is Absolute all that stuff bringing people into the store, it all like Absolute Batman functions on a little bit different wavelength. You're more likely to glance at Bad Thoughts and think, maybe because of Absolute Batman than you are just the regular Batman line with traditional shiny
Yeah.
villains and all that.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Just
absolutely. Yep.
a more mature messaging, I think.
For
And
sure.
warped. It's, I mean, the
Yeah,
absolute line seems to
exactly
be
right.
all about the body horror. You look
Yeah,
at those Poison Ivy issues that Eric Canetti drew, and they're super wild. But yeah, if there is that like you said level of maturity, but the but visually it's so
yeah,
different. Whether it's what.
kind of batshit. Yeah, no
Yes,
pun intended.
absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, Nick is going nuts, and I mean, I always get a kick out of when Jason tells a story of how, because Nick was digital for East of West, and he was content being digital, until his rep suggested,
I would give
hey,
anything to have him switch. I would give anything to have him be digital on Absolute Batman and have drawn East of West traditionally, because I know entire issues of East of West. But say la vie.
yeah,
and so Nick decides to draw traditionally again for Absolute Batman, and I think he's buying homes now. But it's one of those things
yeah.
where it's it just it is a more mature line. Visually, it's way more different. I mean, I grew up loving Don Newton's take on Batman, and
Oh, me
for
too. Yeah,
to see Nick Vergata come out and do this bonkers shit with the character, it's insane. And yeah, and the same thing with Hayden and Wonder Woman, whereas his line is so deliberate and so clean, and I love it. But even that Wonder Woman book is way different than what Tom and Daniel is doing on the mainline book. And yeah, and I do think something like Bad Thoughts fits in way better with the Absolute stuff, because it is catered for a different audience, I feel, than the traditional Earth Prime mainline DC stuff. So
right,
no,
right.
it all works out really well. But we are
Jason,
not.
I'm not breaking the news to you, am I, Jason? That David is drawing at dots digitally.
No. No. And that's fine. That's fine. Listen, fun
I get it
story
though.
on
I
that.
would love to own. I would love to have a couple pages of it, but so it goes.
Yeah, honestly, I'm sated on the Wachter factor right now because when I first started collecting original art, I got a couple commissions from Dave at the original CGS
Yep.
events,
Yeah.
like long before I was OA collector in quotes Jason Wood, and for some reason, just because the fates are what they are, it had been about 15 years since I got something from Dave. Until Heroes, and I finally and
Yeah.
you may not know this, Andy, but I'm arguably the world's biggest Domino fan, and I have over 500 Domino commissions. And
Really?
for some reason, for some reason, I did not have a Domino from Dave, so we finally rectified it, and he absolutely crushed it at Heroes. So I freshly minted Dave Wachter, beautiful. So I'm good.
Good. I recently had to tackle my own pet peeve, kind of. As an artist, I always hated it when editors or writers expected gift artwork.
Oh,
And I've had one certain editor would say things to me like, "Oh, great page. That sure looked great on my wall."
Uh-huh.
And I just wanted to write, "Yeah, well, if you pay full price, maybe that can happen."
for sure, man.
So I
Have
always
you seen
hated
my
that
page rate?
dynamic.
I know you've seen my page rate, Mr. Editor.
Right. I was like, I hate that implied, "Hey, do me a solid." Now Phil Hester and I will gift people stuff.
Sure.
We did a Superman story that Ron Mars wrote. We gifted him a page. That was I gifted Mark Russell. I think I was the first person to give him a page. The artist's volition. More power to you. Great. So I ran it. I don't have a page of Union Station because I wasn't going to put Ed in that position.
Wow. Okay.
I don't have a page of Capote because same. I don't want to say, hey, because there's an implied, cut me a break. So I ran into a wall recently where the Ignition exclusive variant of Bad Thoughts #1 was done by Mr. Klaus Janson, who is an ultimate hero of mine. One of the biggest influences on my inking, not that you can tell looking at the work, but he changed my view of what inking could be, really. Mm-hmm. And I was like, son of a bitch, he's drawn a cover for a book that came out of my head. So I asked Jamie Rich, my editor, do you think Klaus would be okay if I reached out? And Jamie got permission, and Klaus said, of course. So I wrote him, I said, Klaus, I'm not writing you for a bargain. I just want to let you know what a thrill this is. And if the original might be for sale, will you please discuss it with me? And so it's in progress. I overcame my fear, and he was lovely, and I think we're working on it. So
nice.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, because he's rep by Schachter by Essential.
Yeah,
so.
by J. Yeah.
Oh,
nice.
Okay. Oh, well, then I never said it because I didn't go through his agent. So never mind.
Oh, no. Maybe no. We'll delete that. We'll delete that from the feed. There we go.
That's I know that I can't say I'm all that surprised that you don't have a page from Union Station because from Capote and Kansas because Chris doesn't sell his pages. I think the last time he did sell, I think they were up for auction, and I don't know if I haven't asked him. I can only assume that Captain America run he did with Wade, that maybe working with Marvel left a bad taste in his mouth, so he was content with selling those pages, or at least auctioning them off for a good reason. But yeah, I mean whether it's Jonah or Firepower, or I think maybe there might be some Exterminators pages out there, but that's because you inked him. But for the most part, yeah, there's not. If you want a Somni, it's pretty much commissions because you're not really going to get any interior pages from the man. And I mean,
we were talking about Simonson earlier. Simonson keeps everything. That's why they can put out such great artist edition.
I have a rant about that.
Yeah.
And this is just me as Chief Investment Officer Jason Wood speaking. Walt and Louise are in their 70s. Mm-hmm. They seem to be in very good health. So, salute me. Hopefully they live another 20, 30 years. But they are in the later stages of their life. I don't believe they have any kids, right? I think they are kidless. I believe they have some nieces that he said will. But point being, they don't have like a generational issue, right? Like they're not and the art market, as you well know, Andy, has gone so exponentially higher in the last 10 years that I and again, I hope Walt and Weezy have phenomenal wealth planners. I hope like I'm assuming they're very well off financially, because otherwise why wouldn't they have sold some of their stuff? But it is absolutely gobsmacking to me that at their age he hasn't floated one or two issues out to Heritage, because like you know, that would be $1 million transaction. Like right, if he floats a single issue of his Thor run in this market, given that there's no Simonson art out there other than the sketches he does at cons, it would be 7 figures minimum to him, like without question. And I gotta believe, like I follow him on social media, like they're living their best life. Like my man, you could do a lot with that extra $1 million. You could upgrade yourself on that cruise. That cruise could be you could do the Captain Stubing suite. You know, you could, like, I don't know, like because he's got what, probably to Dap's point, like 40 issues of that book, and then on top of that, like the Manhunter and the Alien, like he's got 100
Killer
plus
Ronan,
issues.
Fantastic Four too.
Yeah, so it's like, I understand that. I like, and listen, kudos to him for having both the financial discipline and the success that he didn't feel the need to sell it as it went along. But at this point, where they are in their age, I just think if I were their financial planner, I'd be like, bro, like, treat yourself. Like, put you, like, if you want to give your nieces all of it, like, more power to you. Like put one issue up, call Jim Halperin, put the Curse issue up for auction, and enjoy the fruits of it. You've earned it. You know, I don't know.
Yeah,
it
would be tempting. I'm not at liberty to say a name, but I was talking to a creator recently, an older creator, who has a cover from a really acclaimed run in the early 80s, maybe late 70s. A big hit Marvel book. He kept the original. And I said, dude, you're sitting on a lake house. You know that, right? And he's like, yeah, I've kind of thought about it a little. So, yeah, there becomes a point.
It is wild. I got the chance to meet at Heroes. I got the chance to meet Kieran Dwyer for the first time. And you know, the Grunwald cap run is just, again, one of those things that just meant so much to me because of my age, and it just hit at the right time when I was when I was getting addicted to comics. And I'm a Serpent Society mark. I collect Serpent Society pages. I have a bunch of Kieran's pages, and Kieran hadn't been to a con in 20 years. So it was Dap and I got to meet him. He was a super nice guy. It was great. But of course, in the lead up, when I was talking to him, I ended up getting an awesome commission from him. But I was like, hey, I don't suppose, by the way, you have any cat pages left, because I would love to see them, talk to you about buying, you know, some of them. And he laughed and he said, no, I sold them, you know, 20 years ago. And I thought, God damn, like, my guy, like, you, like, and I'm sure he's aware of that. Like, do you know how much money you left? Like, like if you sold them 20 years ago, you probably sold them for like $75 a piece. And, you know, they'd be like $4,000 or $5,000 a piece now. But, you know, it is what it is.
I went to a convention in, I think it would have been 81 or 2. It was right around the time Byrne was starting FF. I think maybe 2 issues of FF had come out. So he'd done X-Men and Captain America already. And I was a high school kid. I didn't have any money. But John was selling all his pages, X-Men and Captain America, for the same price, $50 a pop.
Oh my God.
And I did not have $50. A kid my age I met at the show bought a 2-page X-Men splash for $100. And I didn't have that $50. And I always tell people the only person who's more sad about that story than me is John Byrne, because he blew a lot of that stuff out at $50 a pop, and it must sting.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm sure. I mean, again, you're in the OA world, so you know the deal. But I remember first learning of Dave Mandel and his journey, and you know, he's this goofy little nerdy kid in New York, and his dad's a doctor, and he's going through his bar mitzvah, and his dad says, "What do you want for your bar mitzvah, son?" And Dave says, "I want a couple $100 so I can go to this hotel con and buy comic art." And his dad thought he was insane. And he, you know, and then he goes to the comic and he comes away with like 2 Kirby pages and a Buscema, like for like $300. He comes away with like 5 pages that pretty much bought his first house in Hollywood.
Right.
Like, it's like, man, I wish I had a time machine. God.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just incredible. And now Dragata's selling his brand new comic on the shelves for $50,000 a page.
Yeah.
Oh my
selling
goodness.
whole
Anyway,
issues for
all right.
like 200.
And by the way, you're talking about Simonson and when to sell. I've thought a lot about that, and I've kind of changed my mind about it based on I have let's see, should I name it? Yeah, what the heck? Louis Perez is a friend of mine. He's one of the members of a band called Los Lobos.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And he and David have written David Hidalgo wrote most of the songs, so they have the publishing rights. And he and I have had this conversation about, leaving that thing for your children. In his case, it's publishing rights. In my case, it's a stack of originals that I've kept throughout my career. And at one point, we were talking, and he said, I understand why Bob Dylan did what he did. He sold out for, some ungodly sum. Because at some point, you have to think, am I leaving my kids an inheritance or a burden?
Mm-hmm.
Because the fact is that my kids will not understand the original comic book art world the way I do.
Yep.
Louis' kids may not understand the music publishing world the way he does.
Absolutely. Yep.
And is it maybe better at some point to liquidate into mutual funds and say, kids, here is something you can build your future on. If you want to move it into some other asset, go with God. That's up to you. But I don't
Yep.
want you to have to face the people coming at you with propositions that you may not be informed about.
100%. I've recently, in the last year or two, had that epiphany. My wife and I did some updated estate planning maybe like a year ago. And to your exact point, I had that exact epiphany and then conversation with my sons and my wife saying, my plan was just to leave you all the stuff with instructions as to the auction houses and the dealers that I think are reputable and so forth. But then I thought, what a fucking pain in the ass slog that is to give that to y'all. Like, do you want to sit there after you're dealing with my death, right? Like, first of all, you're sad because I'm dead. Hopefully you're sad. And then you're dealing with having to figure out which comics are which, and are you like, that is just a chore, a burden. So like, I actually said to them, like, because I'm 51, I said my plan now is to, by the time my wife and I sell our house that the kids grew up in and retire somewhere else and stuff, I said, let's say give or take the next 10 years. I said my plan is to get rid of it all, to sell it all, to auction it, to trade it, to monetize it in as much systematically as I can, because I've had a great time having the stuff. I've enjoyed it passionately, but yeah, I would much rather them just have the capital and live their lives, because none of it means anything to them other than they know that I loved it, right? So it's like, maybe I'll keep a couple pieces of art and some comics that really mean a lot to me, and maybe they'll want to keep them memento, or they can sell them. I don't care. But like, to your point, it makes no sense to leave them with 60,000 comics and 1,500 pages of art. Like, that's just insane.
Yeah.
It's an absolute. It's sadomasochistic. It's like punishing them for my passing.
And it's a kind of arrogance about your own importance. Like, I got to leave what I loved to my kid. They have their own.
Yeah.
thing.
Now listen, there are exceptions, right? Like, I was listening to Jim Halperin, who, for our listeners, if you don't know the name, he is the co-founder of Heritage Comics, and he is a legit billionaire at this point because Heritage is a monster. And he has done a few appearances on Felix Liu's podcast, and Jim has been very open on Felix's podcast about the fact that, a lot of his he probably is the best. He has the best collection of collectibles in the world, and it's not, and he's like it because he is a collector of many things. He's got stamps and coins and art and comics, and but the point is, he's got multi-hundred millions of dollars of collectibles, and he had said that because they're frankly so wealthy already and everything, like, he's got most of his stuff in a trust, irrevocable trust that will go to his heirs, and like, so like, when you're dealing with that kind of wealth, it makes sense to just hold on to it until you die, because then the value steps up. And so inherently, like, there's a huge economic benefit to holding it, because if he, let's say he spent $50 million on this stuff in his life, when he dies, it's going to be worth $800 million, and because he died, they don't have to. The family gets it at $800 million in value, so they don't have to pay the tax, right? So that makes sense. But like, for what you and I are talking about, Andy, like we've done well, like, we've bought stuff because we love it, but we've been around long enough where some of the stuff's gone up a lot in value. Like, I just think, to your point, like, it makes more sense for us to give our family the proceeds, because the step up in value might be nice, but it's not going to be enough that it's going to offset the pain in the ass burden of them having to figure out what to do with the stuff.
Hear that?
Tap's like, I'm gonna do the same with my wall of sketches.
my 3
I'm gonna tell
pieces.
Renee I'm gonna sell them.
Yeah,
That's right, baby. That's right.
Hey, listen,
Well-
I've got that Green Arrow page from Phil and Andy, so I'm content.
Yeah, you do.
Oh, nice. By the way, Phil and I have a deal. If one of us passes, the other one is to go and make sure that their original art collection is monetized properly for the family.
Oh, that's
Nice.
all. Yeah, all the 3 of us have the same deal for like
Yeah.
Vince, Dave, and I. It's like, yeah, like if one of us goes before, it's like we'll help we will help their family. Like if we haven't done what we just said and followed through and gotten rid of it all, we'll help the
Right.
family. Yeah, for sure. I think that's just the right thing to do.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, that works. And I mean, and you and Phil, I mean, for years, and in my mind still, I mean, we're synonymous. Like you just Burn in Austin, Davison Farm. It's like I just think of Phil and Andy. It's kind of like one word. But
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for a long time, you guys were inextricably linked in my mind. I just thought of the 2 of you together.
Thank you. Yeah.
The I mean, and Phil's had some fun with writing stories as well. But no, I as much as it pains me to not see Ande Parks inks on pages these days, at least I'm getting stories from you, so I'm not complaining too loudly. And yeah, I just and listen, we are not. You've got a couple other projects coming in the very near future, so we will not wait another 13 years to have you on again. We will.
Christ, I hope not.
Definitely,
Jesus, that's an
we'll
embarrassment.
definitely be. Yeah, we're not going to talk about it when they're collected and made into movies.
Are we going to remember each other's names in 13 years? I mean, we'll all be in our 60s. Like,
Stop it.
Our late 60s, by the way. Like that's
Good
crazy.
Lord. Anyway, Andy, this has been an absolute pleasure. Where can people find you?
Good question.
Really, the go-to social media for me these days is Instagram.
Yep.
My
That's
Facebook
what
is
I was going to
pretty
say. I
much
hope you didn't say
limited
Blue
to
Sky because I wanted Blue Sky to be a thing. I honestly did, but it's not a thing. So
I'm on
on
there,
Instagram.
and I chime in every now and then on Blue Sky, but Instagram is where I do most of my
All right,
public
nice.
stuff. Yeah. I mean, there's no place you can go social media-wise where you're not jumping into bed with some evil billionaire hardly, so what can you do?
That's true.
Or trillionaire in this case.
You can draw the
Well,
line.
no,
Yes,
no.
Yes, that's where
if you're a Twitter user or an X user, you're dealing with trillionaires.
Yeah,
I was actually, dude, it's so great. Like again, not to get into aside as we're saying goodbye to you, but I was listening to a football podcast today, and they were talking about Musk being a trillionaire, and I thought, I was like, that amount of money is so like stunning to me. Where I was like thinking about it, I'm like, this dude could give away like on a whim, he could decide every day for the rest of his life he's $10 million to someone on Twitter every day. You know, just like a lot of realists, and it would be less than the money he makes on the interest on his bond portfolio. Like he would never even notice it. Like 10 million a day for the rest of his life would not even be. That's how wealthy he is. That is, I don't know. Nobody should be that wealthy. And again, I'm a capitalist.
No,
to be fair,
no, 100%.
I'm a capitalist. Like I mean, obviously, I don't. You know, I'm not like full blown like my son. Like like money is evil. But I mean, honestly, like. That is such a level of wealth where he's making 60 to 70 billion with a B dollars a year on the interest on his capital alone. Like that is like it's just not like it's inhuman. Like it really is inhuman. Like he's like a god effect. He can pretty much do anything he wants, and he has no moral. Like again, I don't want to go on a tangent. But like I'm just saying, it is. I mean, it's not like uber wealthy haven't always been morally bankrupt and used their wealth, but like I don't think the world is quite conceptualized that we're at another level now. Like he's got more wealth than most countries, and I mean that literally. Like he's literally wealthier than most countries, and I don't know what that means. It means probably bad things, though. Like it probably means lots of bad things. Like I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it's
You
gonna.
can say it's too bad that the world's trillionaire doesn't believe in empathy, but. The fact is, he wouldn't be the world's first trillionaire if he had any empathy, probably.
I'll tell you, and again, like talk about like woulda, shoulda, couldas. My CEO and I, I've been at my firm for 26 years now. So like 20 years ago, we got invited to at the time they called it clean tech. That was the term at the time, but it was like green technology, all technologies like solar, wind, and the like. And Tesla was one of the main presenters of the conference, and they were private at the time, but they were gearing up to go public. And I remember thinking at the time, like, what a novel idea. Like, I hope this works. Because, I was like, because it was coming from the angle of like the benevolence of clean tech. I was like, oh, this would be great. Like, if we could get off the petrochemical train, like hamster wheel. Like, wow, great. Like, I'm rooting for this guy. like, wow, this would be great if this is a thing. And never in my wildest dreams could I have imagined, 20 years later, what that actually morphed into. Yeah, it's incredible.
My wife was ahead of the curve. I was looking at a Tesla at one point, and she said, that guy's a douche. Get something else. So I bought a Kia EV instead, and I'm very happy with it.
Well, isn't it remarkable that, like, when Tesla was first a thing, it was all progressive people that owned them. It was... And now we're embarrassed. Like, now it's like, I assume if I see someone driving a Tesla, they're a MAGA. Like, it's probably not true. Like, it's probably not accurate, but like, that's my assumption. I'm like,
well, I think the ones you can tell who may still be on the side of good are the ones who've removed the emblem off the car. Oh yeah, the Cybertruck.
Oh no, I was gonna say, if you own the truck, the Cybertruck is MAGA. There's not a single liberal owns it.
And I've never seen a family in a Cybertruck. It's always just one lone dude.
That's true.
But they're always 50s or 60s white guys. Always.
Yes. Oh yeah. They got
our next door neighbor. Yeah, Andy, I unfortunately live in like I am the lone blue dot in a very red town.
Oh yeah.
And my across the street neighbor, they have two 20-something sons, and both sons have like pickup trucks that are like on like kind of like mini monster trucks, like they have like those extended suspension systems with the bigger tires, and they have the upside down police black and blue flags on the back of the windows, and then they have Trump in big
white
letters on the embedded on the front of their
oh, that's delightful.
Jeez.
Yeah,
so like that's I get to look at that every day when I'm walking my
good stuff.
Thanks,
yeah I mean, it was great. When we all thought he was going to be like Tony Stark, he ends up being like worse than Lex Luthor. But anyway,
yes.
Yeah, for sure.
I
would vote for Lex Luthor.
No, especially these days. I
would happily vote for Lex Luthor. I'd be like,
because
at least he's smart. At least he's actually smart. I'd be like, at least smart.
Yes. And I mean, and he may be, he may obviously have ulterior motives, but I mean, he also doesn't go out of his way to just be a shit human. We've got Bad Thoughts. We've got Tyler Rake. Extraction Story
let me mention one other thing, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Please.
We talked about Extraction, but I also want to point out that the original graphic novel Ciudad has been out of print for about a decade.
I was going to say,
it's now back in print with Ignition, and it's just called Extraction.
Okay.
So
okay, cool.
It's back for the first time in a long time, and for the first time ever in colors. So if you want to read the book that started it all, it's out there as well.
Sweet. What about? Or are they tied up with Oni? What about
the others
Kansas,
are? I'll just say in progress.
Sweet.
All right, awesome.
Love that. Okay.
You have to get your rights back and all that. So we're working on it.
Okay. That's great. That's great because if other people can get their hands on your earlier works, I'd love that. So, absolutely. This was a lot of fun.
Was Capote and Kansas Somni's first comics?
Not technically his very first, but I think it was the first thing that really had him be noticed wide.
Yeah, it's the first thing that I remember. Actually, I mean, bluntly, I think it's the first thing I remember in his. Like, that's the first thing I associated both of you. But like, I was like, man, that feels like something that should be sort of perennially in print to me.
Yeah. Yes. Someday, I hope. Yeah.
Nice.
I love my copy. Okay, we are going to. Thank you again for hanging out with us. This was a ton of fun. Cannot wait to do it again soon, especially once these books wrap up, because I'm sure we'll have a lot to say about them once they conclude, and maybe we'll even try to get Dave on with you so we can.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, really have a nice little chat. So thank you again, Andy, for coming on, for chatting. We will have you on again soon. I mean, anything before 13 years would be soon. So we definitely won't drag it out for as long as you're in between appearances this time. So, yeah. Any parting words, Jason?
No, again, apologies for taking so damn long to have you back on the show, but it's great to reconnect, and congrats on the work, because I genuinely think that that the stuff is a blast, and it's genuinely good comics. So I hope we see a lot more of it.
Thank you so much, guys. I really enjoyed it.
Appreciate you, Andy. You have a great night.
Back at you.
Yeah, he's a mensch, that Ande Parks.
Yes, he is. Hell of a dude. All right. Okay, so that obviously was a lot of fun. And no, you are not Tyler Rake. Callback. You are Jason Wood, and now we are going to bring you in your travels so we can bring this episode home. In your travels, what do I have for tonight? I can go with well, you know what, since we did talk about the Absolute books just real quick. Absolute Superman number 20 by written by Jason Aaron, art by Rafa Sandoval and Vicente Fuentes, colors by Ulysses Ariola. It continues the Reign of the Superman storyline. It's the third part, with not only Superman taking on Black Adam, or Teth Adam, but John Henry Irons and Hawkman. And Hawkman may be having a change of heart, as far as Superman may be making him a believer. But this was a hell of an issue, because the three of them trying to go up against this dude is bonkers. The destruction that Seth Adam is causing in the atmosphere and on land, that like causing planes to wings to fall off, and there are no casualties, because while this is happening, Superman gets to dip out real quick and make the save. But it's an action-packed issue. It's absolutely stunning. So I'm still loving Absolute Superman, and I also dug the second issue of Absolute Green Arrow by friends of the show, Pornsack and Raphael. The mystery continues, and I'm wondering, part of me, and I don't want to think this, I don't want to say this out loud, I don't want it to manifest. There are times where I do wonder if the Absolute line is long for this world, because of the fate of some characters that would mean something in the main line, because they're still established and have been around for so long. But in an Absolute book, and this is across all of them, not just Green Arrow, there are fates of some characters that we're never going to, whether it's Absolute Batman or here in Absolute Green Arrow. You would expect to still see some characters continue, and they're not. And it's one of those things where it's just like, it doesn't feel like a Crisis on Infinite Earths kind of situation where, these characters are going away, never to be seen again. But if you take away so many supporting characters, I don't know what's going to be left. So I was wondering, as I see more characters maybe getting taken off the board, it just makes me wonder, is that because there's a timeline to this imprint that Snyder and company see as ending whenever. But it's just one of those things that just gives me
I think
pause.
you're in your head.
I hope I am. I hope I am because
I mean, I
but
think it'll last way beyond when we all want it to last.
yes, I am. Yeah, that's also that's a cause for concern. But yeah, absolute Green Arrow. Points out picture showed Raphael Albuquerque, Marcello Maolo on colors. The Longbow Killer Chapter 2 was it didn't do much to kind of alleviate the mystery. I'm still wondering, but the backstory, especially with Mia Dearden and how she was involved with Oliver, and the Green Arrow's company before his death. Some other mysteries that regarding Oliver that Dinah may not have even been aware of. It's all kind of coming to light, and it's been it's a hell of a ride, and of course, Absolute Batman, number what is it, 20, is it 21, 21, where we continue the fight of Batman versus the Robin program, and the Rogues also have a moment to shine. Not necessarily with the battle, but we see them all kind of discussing things regarding Jim Gordon and Bruce and his current state. And there's a hell of a moment between Bruce and Jack Grimm, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Freaky as fuck. So yeah, Absolute-O-Rama, of course, Absolute Batman by Scott Snyder, Nick Dragata, and Frank Martin. So that's those are in your travels. It's a nice, easy night. I want to hear what Jason has to say, so I just wanted to get these quick and easy ones out of the way. It's your Absolute-O-Rama. So yeah, there you go.
Nice. All right, I got a quiz for you.
Mm-hmm.
An in your travels quiz. What do James Kochalka, Ed Koren, rest in peace, Alison Bechdel, and Rick Veitch have in common?
Damn it, I don't know.
They're all former cartoonist laureates of the state of Vermont.
Oh shit.
Now, you may be asking yourself, what the fuck is a cartoonist laureate? That's a great question. Vermont is, interestingly, the only state in the 50 that has a cartoonist laureate position. It's much like a poet laureate. It's basically a recognition of someone in the state that is considered a master of that artistic craft. I don't know why Vermont has one and why other states don't. It feels like many states should. But regardless, yes, Vermont is the only state that has it. And like I said, James Kochalka, Ed Koren, Alison Bechdel, and Rick Veitch are all former Vermont cartoonist laureates. And why am I talking about it in your travels? Well, because in your travels, I want you to read the latest graphic novel from the current reigning Vermont cartoonist laureate, a creator that we all know and love by the name of Tillie Walden.
Ooh.
She has been the cartoonist laureate in Vermont for the last few years, since she was 26 years old. She was the youngest to ever be granted the honor. She and her wife moved to Vermont from Texas a few years ago. And given that it's Pride Month, and this is the last episode of Pride Month. I know you started off the month by wishing everybody Happy Pride, but we're gonna end it in the same vein. Happy Pride, everybody. But it feels incredibly fitting to dive into her brand new graphic novel, which is called Charity and Silvia, which hit the shelves last week. Published by Drawn and Quarterly, D&Q. What up? This is really a fascinating thing, and she speaks in the prologue about what kind of the journey. So as cartoonist laureate, I guess there are certain responsibilities associated with such a thing. And the committee chairman, who I don't remember the name, she mentions the name, but whoever the person is that's in charge of that historical component, who made her that, who gave her that designation, reached out to her and said, the first thing I want you to do is to create a comic about Charity and Silvia. And I guess Tillie either wasn't aware of or clear on that she had responsibilities where she could be dictated to. So she was Yeah, cool. Like, I'll maybe do like a 16-page comic for you if you want. But as is the case often, great art comes from unexpected inspiration. So in service of her, wanting to fulfill her duties as cartoonist laureate, she began to look into Charity and Silvia and began scouring hundreds of documents from a historical library in Vermont that specializes in this stuff. And it ended up becoming a more than 200-page original graphic novel, which is now in my hands in many. And this is a historical graphic novel, which is a first for her, and it's quite a thing. It's intense. It's intensively researched, and obviously it's beautifully rendered. It's Tillie Walden, and it's about the true story of these ladies who were, I should say, two 19th century seamstresses, and they shared a home and their business and a life together for over 40 years in rural Vermont. And listen, I mean, obviously, people that have listened to the show for a long time know that I'm a Tillie Walden super fan. I mean, I've read literally every comic she's ever put out, and I think she has to this point had a flawless track record. And she often writes about things that aren't theoretically in my wheelhouse. They are miles away from my own life experiences. I mean, what the fuck do I know about competitive figure skating, as an example, right? But spinning is a intensely great experience reading a comic, right? Like, so that's her magic. Like, she can make stories about things that I have no connection to work and make them feel engaging. And so I'm always going to give Tillie's anything she does a try. And of course, before this is the first thing she's done since her trio of graphic novels in the Walking Dead universe, which we talked about each one. But I will be completely honest with you guys. To my mind, this book, Charity and Silvia, is the most difficult read I've had of her career. It's because I fully recognize the mastery of her craft. I fully appreciate that she is doing something she's yet to do, in that she had to do deep, intense historical research about these people who lived 200 years ago and craft a narrative and sort of fill in the blanks in a compelling way while also feeling like she's staying true to them as people. And there's, she makes the point in her prologue that there's a lot that drew her into this, in the sense that they are two women living together, sharing the same career and struggling financially in rural Vermont. And she says that she and her wife are two lesbians living in rural Vermont, struggling financially with the same careers. Now, I will say that fuck a world where Tillie Walden is struggling financially, because can we not have that happen, please? Like, she should be rolling in it. So I'm not happy to hear that. But either way, that was hers, it's not mine. But why it's difficult is that even though I've said that like most of her stuff isn't necessarily like about people who have lived lives that I can necessarily directly identify with, I've always found like the underlying narrative structure of what she's done to be pretty compelling. And in this case, it was a little bit harder for me to grab onto the rope and hold on, because I don't love period pieces. Like, I've never been a Bronte sisters kind of fan. I've never been like a Pride and Prejudice type of fan. That's not really ever been a period of the world or stories from that world that really have drawn me in. And then also, to be fair, Charity and Silvia, even though they are effectively a lesbian couple living together, in the 1900s, or the 19th century rather, they are hugely religious. They, by their own admission, their favorite person in the world was Jesus Christ. And, Tillie speaks to the fact that she also is not religious, but in doing service to this book and these people, she had to put their religious piety and their love of Christianity and Jesus like front and center, because it was front and center in their, so like had to be in the book. And respect, and all respect to that. Like I totally acknowledge that was a necessary and right thing. But purely from a fan like reading a comic perspective, that's going to be hard for me to really like love, right? Like because I'm just so not religious. Um, so like what I would say about this book is it is a flawlessly executed comic about these two women that I thought had both visual and narrative moments of brilliance. Like there's a chapter toward the end as they're growing older, and we see them age. We see them live their lives over the years. Um, there's a point in the toward the end of the book where one of the women who's been journaling her whole life, um, just about like their lives, she starts throwing her journals into their fireplace. And it's because she's effectively embarrassed about the life they've lived. And like things like that really knock you on your ass because it's like, God damn, like they've lived this life and they've lived it somewhat proudly and defiantly in a time when it was far less accepting of same-sex relationships. And then like at the end, you find out that like she really wasn't comfortable living her truth. Like they did it, but she still felt embarrassed about it. Like there are things about the book that way, and then visual moments where I'm like, oh damn, this is Tillie just being the master that she is, you know. But because of the time frame and the piety of the book and all of that not really in any way having any kind of connective tissue to what I'm interested in, I felt like I closed the book with respect more than adoration, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like I respect the work and I can recommend the work for its craft, but I can't tell you that like I personally loved reading it in as much as I have her other things like Spinning or On a Sunbeam or her Clementine books. Does that make sense? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like I have the utmost respect for what the book is, but I can't. I'd be lying if I said like I love. You know what I mean?
I do. I do. No, I totally
Okay.
get it.
Yeah. So that being said, though, I did not want to give it short shrift. It's a beautiful hardcover. D&Q knows how to publish. The visuals, as always, are incredibly expressive and creative, and the fact that Tillie just turned 30 feels both weird to me because like I still think of her as like 21. Like she's a grown ass woman, she's married, got a kid, like she's an actual adult now, bona fide adult. But I hope she's now, I think this is her seventh or eighth graphic novel. And while again it narratively wasn't probably like my favorite of hers, it's another masterpiece of execution, and I can't wait for her next thing. So happy Pride, and I very much think that if you don't have the same narrative peccadillos that I do about like 19th century period pieces or religion, then you'll probably enjoy this book like much more than I did. Again, from a pure like entertainment perspective, but I have nothing but A pluses for the execution of it. So, in your travels, salute to one of the best creators in the industry alive today, Miss Tillie Walden, and her new book Charity and Silvia by Drawn Quarterly.
Love it.
And I will read the new Baker and Phillips book, so I'm very happy to see that. But we will hold that off because we need to give that its proper. So we'll talk about that next week. But I'm very glad to see that you read it.
Oh yeah.
And if you
Yeah.
didn't love it, you have a week to lie and figure out a way to talk about how much you loved it.
Oh man. Yeah. Yeah. I'll come up with an excuse. The
You didn't love it?
oh please.
Okay, I
Never
was going to say,
mind.
Jesus Christ,
Come on.
shit.
I think I mean there's really there might be only one, and even if I call a Brubaker Phillips book my least favorite, I wouldn't say it's the weakest, but even if I said it was my least favorite of their whole entire, like whether it's House of the Holy or like whatever, like it's still better than many of the other books I'd be reading that week. So it's not.
That's a really good question. What's the worst Brubaker and Phillips book?
Well, it's definitely not any of the Reckless.
Probably My Heroes Have Always Been Junkies.
I was just looking at that cover too. I don't. Do I not like that one more than Pulp? No, Pulp.
Bro, what's your problem with Pulp?
No, Pulp I dig.
It's about comics, dog.
Yeah, but it's also about old timey cowboys.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. No, Where the Body Was is good.
I mean, like you just said before, like the Brubaker Phillips catalog is bulletproof, so it's not like there's a bad one. But
it's not. Yeah. It's a fruitless endeavor.
I would say probably like if we were taking a poll of our audience, like our community, I bet it would either be My Heroes Have Always Been Junkies or Night Fever. But I fucking love Night Fever.
I thought
think
Night
it's
Fever
great.
was the shit. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah,
I enjoyed that a lot. Damn. Well, see, maybe that's one for the favorite and best, which is a new game that we'll tell you all about later.
No, because it's neither favorite nor best.
Well, no, but we could have but
It'd be more of an OUFL.
Oh, we could definitely do Brubaker Phillips OUFL.
The question I'm asking you is more least favorite. Like it would be
right. Yeah, no. Whereas where I'm just thinking of two of my two bangers. One would be that I would consider the best of their work, and which is my favorite of their work if they're not the same. Because sometimes your favorite and best are the same. There's no shame in that.
Right, like Alan Moore, best and favorite to me are both Watchmen.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Right.
Yes, and for me, like Warren Ellis, I mean, maybe Planetary for both. Although no, Planetary would probably be for both because I love Global Frequency, but I can't say that's definitely not better than Planetary, and that's not my favorite over Planetary. So yeah, that's all right. But anyway, folks, thank you tons for putting up with us tonight. We appreciate you all. This episode, as always, was brought to you by, you know what? We're just going to do it now. It was brought to you by cheapgraphicnovels.com. Our friends, Max and Company, doing a bang-up job. Actually, Max's band is on tour, but Max is still answering emails. He's still getting back to you. So if please be patient if you're putting orders in and they're not getting to you as quickly as they may normally do. Give them a couple minutes to get everything squared away. But yeah, they're hitting a bunch of states. I think the closest they're coming out this way might be Ohio. But anyway,
their band is called Half Past Two.
Yes. If you dug ska,
they are a ska band, which is actually how Max and I first became online friends because I think I talked about how much I love the Boss Tones. But yes, Half Past Two. I believe you can find them on social media. Half Past Two Ska, all one word. HALFPAST TWOSKA. Someone might read it and be like, "Oh, it's 2:30 ska." No, it's 2:30 ska. You clowns. Max is also in the same club that we are of marrying.
Oh, really?
You haven't seen it? Dude, his wife is in the band.
I did not know that. No, I did not know that.
Damn. Okay, first of all, his wife's in the band. Second of all, she's an absolute doll.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, then I have to go look at some photos then. Anyway, the Slackers got the Baker's Half Dozen, of course. I saved these three for the show. And that includes Casanova Compendium Book 1 trade paperback for $27.99.
Yes.
Collected.
Speaking of fraction.
In one explosive compendium, this high-octane, dimension-hopping spy saga mashes up sci-fi sex, super spies with delirious pop art swagger. Casanova Quinn gets ripped out of space-time, betrays everyone he ever loved, and destroys whole worlds in his wake. But it's okay. Everything's going to be okay.
Best fraction ever.
The first three Casanova stories now collected in one massive, brain-melting, idiom-incinerating volume. Casanova, We Are Destroying Multiverses Before Destroying Multiverses Was Cool collects Casanova Luxuria 1 through 4, Casanova Gula 1 through 4, and Casanova Avaritia 1 through 4. DC Finest Fourth World, When the Old Gods Die trade paperback for $23.99. Before the Justice League, before the multiverse, there was the Fourth World. Born from the mind of Jack Kirby, this cosmic saga pits the new gods of New Genesis against the dark forces of Apocalypse in a battle that spans galaxies and destinies. Witness the rise of Mr. Miracle, Orion, and Darkseid in the mythic war that reshaped the DC universe. These stories introduce readers to a bold new mythology of cosmic deities, super science, and eternal conflict. From the escape artistry of Mr. Miracle to the tyrannical rule of Darkseid, this volume captures the explosive imagination and revolutionary storytelling that defined Kirby's DC era. Collect Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen numbers 133 through 139 and 141. The New Gods numbers 1 through 4. Mr. Miracle numbers 1 through 4. The Forever People numbers 1 through 5. Superman's girlfriend Lois Lane numbers 111, 115, and pages from 114. And finally, Face Meat graphic novel for $14.96. A headless, busty blonde, a face-stealing psychopath, a sleazy serial killer sculptor, a horny, handsome hunchback, a vengeful caterpillar cuckold, a torturous hangover in the pits of hell. Welcome to the raunchy and grisly world of Face Meat, from the decadent imagination of outlaw, polymath, Bonten Taro, ex-kamikaze, ex-yakuza, singer, songwriter, actor, world-famous tattooist, husband of 7, and underappreciated pioneer of pinky violence, femme fatales, and adult horror manga. While Mizuki Shiguri and Umez Kazuo were paving the way for horror in shonen and shoujo magazines in the 1960s, Bonten was secretly doing the same in erotic men's rags, and the results are as trashy as you'd expect. With an essay by Bonten Booster and B. Gageka expert Kunisawa Hiroshi, Face Meat includes 14 hair and pants-raising stories that have never been assembled under a single cover in any language. Thank you, cheapgraphicnovels.com, for sponsoring the show. Thank you again, everybody, for listening. Apologies if anything went off the rails at any point after we're done talking to Andy. We had a great time tonight. We'll definitely have Andy back soonish, and yeah, I think we'll be pestering some other creators over at Ignition and ask them to stop by and chat for a bit. So
one might take the remix to Ignition, hot and fresh out the kitchen.
Oh, see that? Shout out. So we're done. We will say goodnight. Hopefully, Vince will be back next week to tell us all about his wonderful vacation, and we will.
He's not going to tell us a thing about it, but yes,
I know. So yeah, I want to give him a reason to come back and tune in next week. So we will we'll save all the fun stuff for then. Thank you for listening to this. We will talk to you next week. Good night, everybody.
Gooch.
That's it for that one.